All right, while you're doing that, Lynn, we will start with our pledge of allegiance. Okay? All right. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, September 13th, and this meeting is hopefully being recorded and will be available on the Hanson cable, but that remains to be seen. We are having some technical difficulties, so I urge you not to get into any conspiracy theories if this is not available or easily watched. Okay, with that, Mrs. Wayne, I will turn it over to you for public announcements and upcoming meetings.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. We have
Oh, is it on the other side?
I'm sorry. Yep. Okay.
Sorry. Usually it's a separate page.
Yep.
Hanson Day will be held Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Rain date Sunday, September 25th from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. on the Town Hall Green. We have a mix of business and civic organizations joining us, and we'll be burying the Hanson 200th time capsule at the event. Upcoming meetings, Select Board, September 27th, 2022, and the special town meeting will be October 3rd.
All right, fantastic. Our first order of business is the request from Boy Scout Troop 68 to use Town Hall Green on October 15th and 16th for a pumpkin sale, and November 26th and 27th for a wreath sale. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Fantastic. Let me see if there's any other quick little items that we should dispose of. No, apparently not. Mr. Glass, we have here under new business, building inspector enforcement orders, 61 Ransom Road, 45, that should be Acorn Road,
Yes,
and 16 Liberty Street.
actually it's 14.
14.
Hold on, wait a minute. Which one now?
We have 61 Ransom. Are you saying it should be 14 Acorn
14 Acorn, yeah.
Road and 16 Liberty Street?
Yes.
And the board has been given all of the various letters and documentation provided to our office, but it would be lovely if you could lay out what the situations are and what mitigation efforts you have taken to date, and what you'd like from us tonight.
Okay. Tonight I'd like your approval to get town council involved and to serve these people papers stating that they need to remove these items on, which one are we doing now?
So I guess we might
First
as
one.
well start in the order.
First one, Ransom Road.
Yep.
Yeah, they have a shed in the front yard that they're using as a school. They were allowed that by the school committee during the COVID era, but again, it was in the front yard. They have a reason where they could put it out back, but they haven't.
Okay.
And after that, excuse me, they also had one of those canvas garage setups,
Mm-hmm.
and they brought that from the side yard and grown it all the way into the front yard.
Okay, now you're not suggesting that the school committee thinks that their reach is beyond that of the building inspector?
No, I'm
Okay.
not at all. And when I talked to the owner of that, then the people that have their things there aren't the homeowners. It's the owner's daughter
Okay,
and her family.
okay,
So when I spoke to her about it, she said that they had permission to do it. And I said, well, you don't have permission to put it in the front of the house. You have to get it off to the side. And there's room to do so,
okay.
but they just haven't. And it's been over a year. They've been served multiple times. They've called a couple of times. I've called them back immediately, and there's no answer.
So you've sent letters, you've
Yes.
physically visited there and
Yes.
spoken to them,
Yes.
and so they're crystal clear that what is there is not permissible, and that as an enforcement officer for the town, you've asked them to make this change and get into compliance.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, did anybody have any questions for Mr. Glass about 61 Ransom Road? Okay. did we want to entertain a motion on 61 Ransom Road to allow Mr. Glass to work with town council in pursuing legal remedies available to the town?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? All right, great. 14 Acorn Road.
14 Acorn Road goes back to 2003 or 2004, when my predecessor was here. He served the letters. I spoke with him about it last year, and originally he was unaware that it stretched out around the house with all the debris. This gentleman does cleanouts for houses and garages and basements and such, and he saves a lot of what he takes.
And he is in the middle of a 100% residential area.
Correct.
Yes, okay. Have we asked Conservation or the Board of Health for any perspective on that?
I didn't get any answers from him
Okay,
this week, so I'm assuming that there isn't a conservation issue with water or anything.
okay, and what about the Board of Health?
Board of Health did not get back to me on that.
Okay, because I have driven by the location a couple of times, and I can tell you that if I were living in that neighborhood, I would have a very large problem. All of the houses are meticulous, it's a lovely little 100% residential neighborhood. It's not in any way, shape, or form zoned for a business, much less a junk removal business. Okay, did anybody have any questions or concern? Have you been able to personally speak to this
Yes, I have.
individual? Okay.
Yes, I have. He came in last year after I called him and had sent him a letter, and he came in to talk to me about it and assured me that everything was going to get moved out of there, and more stuff was just showing. He has not.
And what time frame was that?
Let's see. First letter he got back, actually this one's from 2014, December 2001. I spoke with him.
21?
Yeah, it's 2021.
Yeah. Okay, great. Did anybody have any questions about that?
We're seeing in the Article 311, junking car disposal, Section 3, any person violating any of the provisions of this bylaw may be fined not more than $20 for each offense each day, and such violation continues constitutes a separate offense.
Yeah.
You're saying this is back to 2014, so what are we talking about?
Well, have we been imposing any fines on this gentleman?
We have not.
I think, and I would never suggest this if it were an innocent mistake where somebody maybe hadn't been aware, wasn't made aware, we hadn't had ongoing conversations. I think that we do, as Mr. Weeks has alluded to, we do already have a bylaw that allows us to impose a fine. And I think that we ought to start that meter running, along with, if the board agrees, working with legal counsel to take a more permanent, long-term, approach. Did anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would just say if we give this individual a deadline and a reminder of Section 3, maybe that would help mitigate things a little bit more, and stop them even run once a predetermined deadline for me.
So, did you want to suggest a deadline?
I was just going off of this and said, at least I think it was this one, something about 7 days. So whatever, 7 days from the time that you speak to him next, or this person next, and just remind them that the clock will start. $20 a day potential fine. That's per offense, right? So so that could be per piece of. Because it says on the section.
I think that would be a stretch because he'd pay for it.
No, naturally.
Because the amount that he has there.
Yeah, I'm not even suggesting. I'm just actually asking questions out loud. So because it says, in which the opinion of the Board of Selectmen shall be considered detrimental to public safety, health, and good. So I guess we'd have to determine what we consider out of this to be that, and then stop the clock at $20 a day per offense.
Do we want to give Mr. Glass, if we want to give a little bit of time for Mr. Glass to reach him and then do a follow-up letter, do we want to say that we'll start the meter ticking October 1st? I'm just throwing that out, it's as arbitrary as the next date, considering this has been going on since 2001. Okay, so, all right, let's take first matters first. I will entertain a motion to begin October 1st imposing fines until such time as the entire property is cleaned to the satisfaction of our building inspector.
So moved. I'll second it.
Okay, further discussion, Mr. Hickman?
Yes, I just want to make sure we have the correct address. Carrie, you said it was 14?
14.
Okay, going back to 2014, it says 45.
I know it does. I had to check with the police station
Okay.
on the actual address.
Did they renumber the street?
They, I believe they
Oh,
did.
they did, that's what,
Yes, that's what it was. So when Bob actually did that,
Mhm.
it may have been 45.
Okay,
But when I was there and I looked at it the first time, I used a license plate to determine what the address was.
okay. And just reading the complaint from 2014, it's not the actual property owner, it's his son.
Correct.
Which you mentioned.
And the father is no longer with us. He's passed away.
Okay, so now the son owns the property.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it'll be easy.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, fantastic. And then let's move on to the matter of Mr. Glass speaking with town council to pursue a legal remedy. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Okay, great. And now let's move on to 16 Liberty Street, Mr. Glass.
Yes, this individual purchased the property and was asked if he could park some vehicles there previous to me coming, and he did. And then he started parking everything else there. He's got a cement mixer, he has piles of debris, he has a shipping container. I believe there's probably 7 vehicles on that piece of property right now. He came to the zoning office last year after I spoke with him, and he discussed with them about doing something with the property and assured us he would be, and he hasn't done anything. It's a hazard. He backs his large vehicles with large trailers into that area on that corner.
The crazy.
And, yeah, it's a matter of time before something catastrophic happens.
The neighbors are beside themselves there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just beside themselves, and essentially, it's a very visible location, so everybody in town has to drive by this junk pile sitting there. And what's more concerning is that there's no permit in place for that business to actually be there operating
No, there
in
isn't.
any way, shape, or form. And I'm also concerned similarly, Mr. Clemens, with this particular property. I don't know if it's actually in a resource area, but it's precariously close to a resource area.
I would say it is upslope from a resource area. I don't know the distances, we don't have that data. But that is a question that could and probably should be looked into as part of the process on this.
Yes. And when is the last time you spoke to this gentleman?
Last week, he came in
And,
and did the same spiel again at the zoning office and talked to them, and talked to me about what he wanted to do, and it was the same thing he said before. So I don't think he is going to do that, what he
now,
thinks.
is this gentleman's arrangement, which I use that term very loosely, would that also have an ability to apply our junk bylaw to? Because I think one could argue
Yes.
there's a lot of refuse there.
There is waste materials.
Yep, okay. So,
It's in writing too. I mean, the first one goes back to January, and then the last one says August 15th, and you actually have the bylaw with the fine in there.
Yes.
And we're talking a month after that,
Yeah.
so.
so do we want to, I think, in my opinion, we would want to be consistent with similar transgressions, that we would probably want to start imposing fines there as well. And I guess since we're doing October 1st for the other, does that seem like?
yeah.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion
I
that beginning
will.
October 1st for 16 Liberty Street, we will be imposing the fines as stated in our bylaw until such time as the building inspector is satisfied with the cleanup?
I move.
Second.
Okay, further discussion?
I'd like to have it backdated, but we can't do that.
I appreciate your sentiment.
Yes.
Okay, without any further discussion, I'll go to the vote. All in favor? Okay, great. And then we'll take the second piece, which is to allow Mr. Glass to work with our legal counsel to pursue any legal action that's required. Okay.
So moved.
I have a move.
Oh, second.
Yep, okay, great. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, great. Thank you. I can't express enough because I know this is not the fun part of the job for you, but it's extremely important because
Absolutely.
without consistent enforcement, it's favoritism. So we have to be really good about making sure we're enforcing the bylaws that we have, and I think particularly the one on Liberty Street is one that's extremely visible to everybody, and I think sends a message whether or not this town takes enforcement of our bylaws seriously or not. So I really applaud you for your diligence and your follow-up and your collegiality in trying to work with these people to bring things to a positive resolution, but sometimes people just need a little bit of more of a nudge, and so I guess that's what we're gonna have to do, so.
And, Kerry, if I could ask a favor, because sometimes, whether it's this board or another board, or even yourself, we get so busy that we forget about follow-up. I know we have, town meeting on October 3rd, so is our next meeting the 11th
Probably, yeah.
of October?
Yeah.
Is it possible for you, and you don't have to show up,
What day?
it would be the second week in November, maybe
The
the
11th?
11th?
I won't be in the state.
You don't have to
Or
physically,
October.
you don't physically need to.
But I
Yeah.
yeah.
Just maybe a note
Yeah.
saying, this is what I've done, this is their response.
Yep.
I know by the time you guys get this, it's gonna be October 11th or 12th, or whatever
Yep.
the date's gonna be. Just so that we can see what the follow-up is.
Absolutely, sure.
I drive by there every day. I drive by that corner every day, so. Thanks.
All right,
All right, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Next on our agenda is update from Impressed LLC regarding grow facility. Lynn, were we able to get
Yeah.
onto the Zoom call?
We're on to the Zoom call.
Okay, and,
turn
Paul
it
from
around.
Whitman Hanson Cable, I'm sorry to do this in the middle of a meeting, but I don't know how else to, do this. How are we, can you help us connect so that we can show this up on the screen?
Yeah, I'm not Paul.
Oh, boy, okay. Then we'll just move right along
The
on.
guy in the corner.
Okay,
October 18th, by the way, next,
Huh?
so we just got word that,
18th.
18th.
okay, all right,
I
great.
think it's your son, I'm not sure.
So, Mr. Melissi, I'm wondering, can we pause that camera? And then we're going to work with, and I'm sorry, what is your name, not Paul? Brian? Oh, I should have recognized you. Yeah, we're gonna take a short break, and we're going to get our technological act together, and then we're gonna switch over to the cable guy.
You want to take the break on this camera?
Yes, we want to break from that camera. Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. We had a brief intermission. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back on track and we are ready to roll. So next up on the agenda is an update from Impressed LLC regarding a grow facility and potential delivery. And as you will recall, 2 or 3 meetings ago, we had Mr. Greenberg and Miss Greenberg and their attorney come and discuss with us a proposal for cannabis delivery to be added on to the current service model that Impressed LLC has, which is a grow facility that's already been approved by the town. They have an equity partner, Chanel Lindsay, who has joined us, and with her is Ezra Parzabak, and I'm sorry, Ezra, if I just completely slaughtered your name. I gave it my best attempt, who is a consultant with Chanel. And we've asked, as you recall at the last meeting, we had 3 parts that we had asked to have covered with us. One was projected financials from the folks at Impressed LLC for the grow facility. The second piece was the projected financials for the delivery service from the equity partner and, with Impressed LLC. And then the third was to kind of lay out the framework of the delivery service, what the rules of engagement would be, and anything else that they feel that would be important for this board to know in order to be able to support this at town meeting, because it's one of our warrant articles. So with that, Mr. Greenberg, I'm not sure if you folks had coordinated with one another on who's on first and who's on second, but I thought it might make sense for you and Ally, and I'm not sure if Sharam is joining us this evening or not, but for whoever it is that's representing Impressed LLC, to talk about their projected financials and then perhaps hand it over to Chanel and Ezra.
Yeah, so thank you for having us, of course, and appreciate always the opportunity to work together with the town of Hanson. So as for projections, so first of all, I think you all should know a little bit more about the CCC and how they work. The Cannabis Control Commission has what they call a PFLI, a post-final license inspection, which gives us the ability to sell our product. Currently, after all this hard work, we do have product in our facility that has been finalized, and perpetual product that will be coming out on different cycles within the year. But I don't think it's really prudent for me to give you a number or a projection or any of our financials, only for the reason is because when it's tested, that's how you sell it. The test result will give us all of our pricing structure that the end users and the wholesalers will pay from us. So it really will be a really lousy number, and it will be fraudulent for me to say anything to you and give you a number as a projection. The market has changed dramatically in the last couple of months, but I really do feel that adding this delivery component, because we would just be a wholesaler, would really give us the increased profits and the profitability that both Impressed and the delivery component to this business will both prosper from, as well as our host community agreement with the town. So for the moment, if you don't mind, I'd like to really leave this with Chanel and Ezra, and then we can either reconvene after they talk and you can have questions for me, but I think the big question is, how do we create this delivery component to the Impressed group and make this the opportunity that we're all looking for. Is that okay with you?
No. To be honest with you, one of the things that we had discussed, and I think when I had a conversation with Chanel and Ezra about what we would be discussing tonight, is that this board is being asked to support the addition of the delivery, which we're feeling quite favorably about. But one of the things that is important to the voters is how much money is this going to bring into the town? So if we're not getting any kind of projection on the financials, that's a very difficult position that we're being put in as the elected representatives for our constituents, where we literally don't have any information to give them, and we're being asked to take a leap of faith that we're going to make some money, but we can't really tell you how much money. And I understand, Ralph, what you're saying, that it's a bit of a bouncing ball. There's a lot of different factors that would go into it, and at this point you don't feel comfortable giving a solid number. But I at the very least would appreciate, if you're not prepared to do that tonight, I can appreciate it, but we certainly, the board, I think, would need something before town meeting that gives a low ball of what the town might be expecting in the next couple of years in the way of revenue. And the reason I say that is because we get to town meeting and we have people come up, stand up at the microphone, and they will make up numbers that the town will be getting in an attempt to argue that we ought not to move the ball forward in any other way with any other cannabis business. And we have nothing to say whether those numbers are correct or not. Those numbers would have to come from you guys. We don't have them.
Let me just first of all introduce Chanel, because I think it's important. Chanel has been in this industry a lot longer than we have, and that's why she is our partner in this project. And I think she'll come up with some information that hopefully will give you what you're looking for. So please, can I just leave this with Chanel for a moment?
Sure,
And I'm here
that's
for any
great.
questions.
And we welcome you, Ezra and Chanel, and if you can, kind of lay out the equity partner, what that means, what the arrangement is between you folks, and then what your proposed service model is, that would be great.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. If I'm good to go, I will proceed, and thank you very much for having us here tonight to be able to talk a little bit more about all of these different pieces, and I will absolutely be able to speak more to what we're expecting out of Impress as far as yield, and absolutely understanding that Ralph right now is in the thick of it in harvest, and really at the point of, how are we getting to market, and how can we accurately describe to the town, what that might look like. So I'm here with my team, and I know you guys are very well versed and familiar with Impress, since you guys have been working, the town has been working with them for many years now. But I am new to the scene here with everyone in Hanson, so I'd love to just take a moment to introduce myself. And again, I just want to start out by thanking both the board and the town and anybody else who might eventually watch this here. Just a bit of background on me. My name is Chanel Lindsay. I'm 41 years old. I'm a lifelong Massachusetts resident. I am an attorney. I'm a business owner, and I'm also a mom. My son's off at college now, so I fully dedicate my time to my businesses and to my legal work. I started out as an attorney for a firm called Sugarman Rogers, Barshak & Cohen early in my legal career, and I received many awards for being a rising star in the Boston legal community. I've been in the cannabis industry now as a business owner for over 10 years. And my first business is a technology that I developed and patented. It is a machine that helps people, especially seniors and medical patients, be able to make different cannabis products like suppositories and topicals and other things that can help them. And through the success of that business and having the knowledge and expertise there, I was tapped and was invited to help write the law that legalized cannabis for adults over 21. So Question 4, I was one of the authors of Question 4. After that successfully passed, I was tapped by Treasurer Goldberg and appointed to the Cannabis Advisory Board, and where I served and helped and worked as an advisor to the Cannabis Control Commission while they were writing the inaugural regulations. And I did a really good job in that role, and I was reappointed by the treasurer for a second term where we worked and helped the Cannabis Control Commission build out the second set of regulations, which included these delivery regulations. And in addition to that, I am really excited now at this point to be one of the few female owners in the cannabis industry, and very, very excited to help and join partnership with one of the very few female growers in the industry, and also a family business, because that is the history of my businesses as well. And one of the things that I have a lot of experience in is not only running an organically grown, sustainable business, but also a very compliant business. And that is what we intend to bring as a partner to Impress and to the town, a business that is sustainable, that is one that helps the town, helps Impress realize their dreams of sustainability, and also brings back needed revenue to the town. And as I mentioned, Ezra, who's part of our team, is a licensing and security expert, and what we're planning to do today is to roll you through the different protocols of the delivery business, what's required there, and some initial projections on what the business will bring in. Just so people understand and know, the way the delivery functions in Massachusetts is that delivery businesses are only open to folks that are deemed equity applicants. They meet a number of different standards within the industry regarding their past, the communities that they come from, and also their dedication to hiring and ensuring that there's equal participation in this industry. And so my business, La Flora, is an equity business. I am the owner of that business, and together partnered with Impress as partners in this delivery business, it makes a ton of sense for both of us to work hand in hand to make sure that all of the product that is being grown by Impress makes it out into the marketplace in Massachusetts. And as Ezra will go into in some detail as we're going through the different security protocols and the requirements around delivery, I think it's really important to understand that this is a very, very heavily regulated product that has many, many different layers of tracking, many, many different layers of technology to make sure that the product does not end up in the wrong hands, and that this is a much more compliant system than what's happening now, which is, illicit delivery. So it's really tying the entire point of legalization, obviously in addition to making sure people weren't being arrested for small amounts of cannabis, was to make sure that the money that is currently on the illicit market is actually coming and being a benefit to the cities and towns, and that's what we are here to do. And if there aren't any more questions for me right now at the outset, I can hand it over to Ezra to bring up the presentation where we can go through how this would actually work. What does this look like in Hanson when we bring a delivery business? What are the procedures and protocols and safety pieces in place to make sure that we remain compliant?
Did anybody have any questions before they pop into the, all right, we're good to go, Chanel, thanks.
Thank you. And Ezra, please take it away. And I don't know if we may need some sharing capabilities for Ezra.
Thanks, Chanel. Yes, I will need to share my screen if that's available, but I'll just introduce myself first. I'm Ezra Parvizbach, business consultant in the cannabis industry. I started in 2012, actually, when medical marijuana was legalized, and felt that those who needed access to it also needed education. So I've been an education consultant and advocate in this space for a long time. When recreational hit, a lot of people came to me saying, how do I open a business? So I've made it my mission to help these businesses get open in the most compliant way, following the strict regulations, going through inspections, and also educating communities, making sure that they understand what that means. This is the interval between prohibition and legalization, so it's concerning for many people. So we want to make sure, and this is why you often have attorneys who own these businesses or pursue these businesses, because it's such a compliance and legally focused business. So, and I brought about, 40 teams through the provisional licensing process and a dozen teams to operations, and also helped, I got licensed and through inspections and to operation, the very first delivery operator team. So I'm going to share some images that are from the actual operations of that business for the board to see, and thank you, Select Board, for the opportunity. Okay, so getting my screen, everyone can see everything all right?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to move this all the way down. So the license category is called delivery operator. That is, it separates it from, let's see if I can get this out of the way so you can all see. I'm not sure how I'm going to move that, but I can move this up. Anyway, I'm going to have to move the screen so people can see it. The delivery operator license is separate from a courier. A courier delivers to homes directly from a retailer. The delivery operator is a warehouse model, and it's a perfect model for the scenario in partnership with Impress. It's important for everyone in the community to understand that medical marijuana, which is a different legal category, has the exact same product line. So there are medical marijuana dispensaries and facilities, and there are, quote, recreational or adult use dispensaries. The product line is different, except for one thing. Medical marijuana has a much higher threshold of concentration, so the products are much stronger. In the adult use market, the products are not as concentrated, not as strong. So medical marijuana, from day one, has been allowed to deliver to consumers at their homes. That's why I put in here home delivery option for discrete professionals. There are many people in the medical profession and the legal profession who are do not want to be seen in dispensaries. Commuters who are not able to get home to their families and kids and stop at retail, and those with disabilities who much prefer delivery. So let me just get to this next screen. I also added this in because I think it's important for those of you who are not familiar with the consumer base. This is now almost 6 years old, and basically a third of adults, 32% in fully legal states, that is Massachusetts, have consumed cannabis in the last 6 months. Alcohol, as a comparison, is about 70%. So cannabis within now 30 years of legalization in the whole country is halfway to where alcohol is. So this is the fastest growing consumer demographic is those 60 and above for cannabis. They're replacing it, replacing alcohol, opiates, things like that. So I'm going to go through and talk about how the vehicles are safe, how we store product both in the vehicle as well as in the facility, what a vault looks like, how we train the people who drive these vehicles and operate the facility, and then a lot of the software and various regulatory aspects that are required, like tracking the vehicles constantly, having manifests that match the dispatch as well as the vehicle and the delivery, how we check IDs, and then seed to sale, the state seed to sale program. So these are actual delivery vehicles of a delivery operator operating in East Hampton, Massachusetts. And as you can see, they're not typical to what you might think of as being like a delivery van. The products going out are very small, very securely packaged in airtight, child-proof containers. And so you don't need big vehicles. So these are not going to add to congestion on the roads. When they're in neighborhoods, they're not standing out as anything other than normal suburban vehicles. I will show briefly. This is what's called a Sallyport, or secure delivery area for the vehicles. So all vehicles in this model must pull into an enclosed area where product is brought to the vehicle from the vault. So nothing is seen from the outside as far as products going in and out of the vehicles. Here is a vault, and I really wish I can just get this out of the way. I'll go through it. Here's a typical vault. So these are bins, and all the labels you see on bins are the bar-coded tracking system. So every single product in a bin is kept as a batch. The bin itself is a product batch. And there's someone in the vault who's in charge of inventory. And then the only people who have access to the vault are specific employees, the owner, the manager, and the inventory manager. Drivers have absolutely no need to go into the vault. So there's right there separation, a security separation between the people who are bringing the products to the consumer and where it originates inside the vault. And as you can see, once an order is packed inside this secure vault area, it is put into these locked bins. This TCC does not require the specific brand or size of the bin. It just has to be what works for each operator. And these bins obviously will go into the vehicle, so the delivery agent can get into the room, this locked room where their bin that corresponds to their vehicle is located. slow down. So here is what happens when the bin gets into the vehicle. As you can see, these are cameras here. So there must be a camera showing this product bin. The product bin itself must be locked. The bin must be attached to the vehicle, so it's two separate padlocks. And these cameras have the live stream. The CCC, the Cannabis Control Commission, requires that if there's any incident at all, videotape of that incident must be immediately available. So there is no other delivery service in the state that is required. A vehicle that's delivering cash, they can choose to have that level of security for surveillance, but it's not a regulatory requirement. As you can see, here's a separate camera that shows the drivers. Now, I always use drivers plural. It takes one person to drive the vehicle. The regulatory requirement is that there are two registered cannabis facility agents in the vehicle. This is to allow one agent to exit the vehicle, access the product, and deliver to the door, and one agent stays with the vehicle. This is all tracked on GPS. Now, the drivers have, at the very least, their core background checks, so that is a requirement. They have to pass a background check. And then they go through the standard onboarding and training that any business is going to provide in learning the rules, learning how to go through these steps that I just outlined. But there's also stated requirements. So they're all agents, so there are now tens, maybe not tens of thousands, but over 10,000 employees in the cannabis industry, regulated cannabis industry in Massachusetts. Every single one of them needs to go through what's called RVT, Responsible Vendor Training. It's similar to tips for bartenders. You learn how to recognize impairment, how to check IDs, etc. Delivery agents go through a secondary training called Delivery Core Curriculum. And this requires them to learn extra protocols for handling cash. And all of this is all of these processes from packing, putting in vehicle, and all the training for the agents are written out in operating procedures, which are pre-inspected by inspectors at the facility. They have to learn about safety issues, de-escalation, training them to recognize potential threats, things like that. And any incident, so standard across the board, any facility, but especially delivery, whether it's a flat tire on the side of the road, or a break-in into a vehicle, or even a consumer who might be impaired upon delivery, this all gets reported to the CCC. They can ask for a videotape at any moment, so the best thing we can do as compliance obsessed entrepreneurs and workers in this industry is just report every single thing in writing to the CCC. So that's very locked down. One nice thing that happens in retail stores and at the delivery system is IDs are checked online. So if you're going to order from home, you must have your ID verified through the software at the facility, at dispatch. They verify this ID. They get your order, and then when the agent arrives for that delivery, they get to look at the exact same ID that was processed beforehand to match it with the person who's handing them the ID at the door. So these, the modern technology around this, brings the security to a really nice level. As I said before, recognizing if this is a safe space, if the consumer is safe, we're looking after that. There's also educational materials. So the cannabis itself, it has to be. There are certain requirements as far as the educational materials that are provided to that consumer, how to store it, what average dosing is, recognizing the effects of certain products, things like that. Now, at Command Central, at the dispatch operations, which in this case would be, in the industrial park at Impressed LLC, you're going to find on the right here we have the dispatch. This is a typical dispatch. You can see the left-hand screen shows every single camera. So this is every single camera inside the facility, every corner of every room, every single space that the facility controls outside the facility. So there's a parking lot, there's cameras on the parking lot. If they're just right up the curb, it'll just show the facility, the entrance and exit doors. So all the cameras are there. On the right-hand side, I went in this morning to this delivery operator, and we weren't open yet. So, but what you'll see there is just a map, and the dispatch will be able to see every single vehicle where they are, because there's very strict requirements as to the communication that occurs between the vehicle and dispatch. A check-in, there must be a check-in from the delivery agents to dispatch every 30 minutes without fail, as well as arrival upon delivery and leaving delivery. So if your delivery is 30 minutes long, you're checking in 3 times. Right? When you get there, when you leave, and a third time when you have 30 minutes. On the left, you'll see body cams. This is another difference between medical marijuana delivery and adult use delivery. The delivery agents wear body cams identical. These are actually the very same body cams that law enforcement uses. There are very strict requirements about informing the consumer that this is a legal requirement. They must be recorded, both on the online store, if you will, the online point of sale system, as well as in person. The first thing an agent does when they arrive at the door is to notify the consumer that this transaction is being recorded. So these all capture that video. Go back to the facility. Underneath on the second shelf, you'll see a handheld device that is for debit cards. So this is another form of payment that the industry is moving toward to get away from cash. It's difficult to process the cash. Cash is a potential security risk. So a huge percentage, I don't know it off the top of my head, but many consumers are using their debit cards. Basically, that little handheld machine works as an ATM. That's how they process debit cards. Okay, going back to, so now just getting to the software a little bit. Metric is the state-required software that the Cannabis Control Commission uses themselves to track every single sale in the state. That's how we know we've had $2 billion of legal sales in the state. And it's also what the operator uses to track in the back end to make sure every batch that comes out of Impressed LLC's cultivation must use metric tracking, which the state can see at every moment. And it will go through the facility and end up in the vault of La Flora, the delivery operator, and the CCC can see it at every moment. And this is a great system because if you lose a single product, if your batch does not weigh the same as it weighed when it left, 1 point, then you have a security net, so you get to retrace your steps. You can look at the video feed. This is why it's important. Now, the metric is a back end to the point of sale. A point of sale is just what you interface with as a consumer. It might be on a website. This is where you get the double ID check, where you can actually show your ID. If you walk into a retail store now, they show your ID, they scan it, and it immediately pops up on the point of sale system. So that when you choose your product, they can recognize that it's the same person who checked their ID at the door. And then GPS and logistics, often people are using a secondary or tertiary software platform that allows the deliveries to efficiently go out and time, how far is this delivery, which vehicle should go there. These vehicles are not what we call the ice cream truck model, which is to just stuff the vehicle with as much cannabis product as possible and then just see who needs a delivery as you're driving around. That is not allowed. Every single product that leaves La Flora's vault and goes into the vehicle has already been pre-ordered. There is no order There is no product that goes into a vehicle that has not already been tracked, ordered, ID checked, etc.
Hey, Ezra,
Yes.
Yeah, we just want to do a quick little time check here. We've got about
Yeah,
10
okay.
10 more minutes or so
Great.
for you.
Thank you,
So
I
just wanted
appreciate
to,
that.
just check in and make sure that we're going to be good there.
Great. Okay, this is the very last slide. This is a pro forma, as was said by Ralph, that the market is new and forever changing and is quite volatile, so it's challenging to know. But this is just an estimate that Flora might come up with. So anything 3% would be the tax base, the required tax off gross revenue that goes to the town. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ezra. And I think that looks like we have perfect timing here because ending this conversation on kind of what could impress, where could we be with Impress and LaFlora as a delivery partner? And just like Ralph was saying, with these numbers here, we really tried to be conservative. But I can talk a little bit more about kind of where that range could be and some of the different factors that may lead us in one direction or the other. So when you're looking at Impress, the goal this year is to harvest 1,000 pounds of plant material and to eventually get up on a yearly basis to 3,000 pounds of plant material a year. And when we're looking at the marketplace right now, the average wholesale price for a pound is anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000. So you can imagine there, if, for example, Impress can get 1,000 pounds of quality product to the market this year, right? What that would be at $2,000 a pound. And then what we would do over on the delivery side would be try to double that amount. And so what we're looking at is Impress at anywhere, hopefully between $2 and $6 million a year in what they would be able to produce, and then LaFlora being able to double that. LaFlora does have the ability to sell additional products, not just from Impress, but also have a line of edibles or other things that are part of our delivery. But obviously our main focus is being a partner to Impress and making sure that all of the product that is produced in Hanson makes it out into the rest of the state. And the way that we plan on doing that as a partner, what you've heard some conversations and concerns on Ralph's side, on Ezra, about this market, price compression in this market, especially as more and more cultivators are coming on board. That's why it's really important for us at this point to come on and establish ourselves both as an Impress brand and as a delivery service, because we do have the ability to be one of the first movers on the delivery side. With that, obviously, comes the ability to have a very strong customer base and a loyal customer base. And as I mentioned, my expertise in running a cannabis business and building an audience and selling high-quality, high-ticket items in the cannabis space is what we're going to be able to bring to the table with good branding on these products and good quality products so that people do choose Impress and LaFlora over other cannabis businesses. So those are the factors that really come to play. Number one, how quickly we can get up and running and get a really solid customer base, and continuing to support Impress as they go and do the agricultural part of this, which is growing, the best flower possible. There's also the ability, once Impress begins to manufacture, to have additional products added to the line there with the manufacturing of pre-rolls and other items as well. And so what we bring to the table, again, is a partnership and the ability and expertise on that marketing side, on the ability to reach that end consumer to make sure that we can sustain our part of the business while, again, Impress takes care of growing the product. And I just want to underscore what Ezra was saying. You can see from that presentation how strict the requirements around delivery are. There are also limits on how much product can be in a car at any given moment. Really this thing is completely there's oversight and tracking and reporting at every single layer of the business. And I also did want to mention that there is an additional benefit and kicker to the town. A new law that was recently passed at the State House that would allow an additional 1% to go back to the cities and towns that allow equity qualified businesses, which LaFlora is, to come and be a part of that town. And so there are some pieces that are required there just on the town side of having policies to help promote an equitable industry, which obviously we can help the town craft, and allowing delivery and us as an equity business obviously is right along the lines of what is required for a town to be considering these things. So I think you guys, the town is considering that at this moment, and so there would be an additional kicker to the town from the state tax for us as an equity business.
Okay, great. I'm sure people are going to have questions. That's a lot to unpack, as they say, but thanks for, presenting so much information. And of course, you did send us a lot of even more in-depth information, hard copy, that people will, have an opportunity to peruse. And we may have some follow-up questions. I'm hoping that that you guys are thinking about having somebody at town meeting in case there are questions that come up, because as much as we all just tried to absorb everything that you just said, we are not going to do it as much justice as you folks would. Just kind of put that bee in your bonnet. Mrs. Rain, did you have a question?
The one thing that I wanted to get out of this tonight and going into town meeting is we really need those numbers. I'm telling you right now that the townspeople are gonna want to see that there's a real benefit to this. You got a tough fight on your hands if you don't have some concrete figures to give to them.
Well, so we've got some projected numbers from the LaFlora.
I know.
And I think, and so I do appreciate that at least it gives us some sanity check. And I can certainly appreciate that any numbers you'd give us would have to have all kinds of disclaimers, because, so there's so many factors. All it would take, and I'm not trying to call the universe in, but would be a failed crop or some type of a disease or something like that, and the whole thing could, or some rapid, drastic change in the market or some legislative change, and all of a sudden the whole game changes. So I know there's a lot of moving parts, and I do appreciate that you at least tried to put some numbers together for us, Chanel and Ezra, and I think that's helpful. And what I'm hearing is Chanel's going to circle back with Ralph and see if we can get something similar.
That's the part we need.
And I think the focus for these guys has been on getting the numbers for the delivery, because the grow facility has already been approved. And really, now it's a matter of, are people going to be on board with this delivery?
You're gonna have to get them to understand the difference between the two.
Yes. Yeah, one thing that I know that you hit on it, Ezra, but I definitely think it's can't be hit upon too much, is this is not a brick and mortar store. This is not retail. This is not changing. We're not having a store on Main Street or any of that stuff. This is from the facility to the home, delivery, no retail, no brick and mortar. And I did like the fact, and it was quite an eye-opener for me when I spoke to you guys last week, was medical delivery has been happening all along and we didn't even know it. I could have neighbors getting it and I'd have no way of knowing it because it's very discreet. So I think that those are two very important things to make sure that we're mentioning when this presentation is done in town meeting. Mr. Hickey, I know I saw you furiously scribbling notes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chair, I have a few questions. Ezra, the last slide that you showed us, it was the financial snapshot. And in year one, that's perfect. And okay, so you go from year one to year two, and the retail sales only go up roughly $1,080,000 on the retail sales. but the estimated net income is more than double. It goes up another, I think it's $587,000 from year 1 to year 2. I'm racking my brain looking at this, and maybe I'm just making a mistake, but I don't see how it gets that high. Are you following me?
Yes, so from year one to year 2, in the retail sales, is that from 38 to, or 3.8 to 4.8? Is that specifically what you're? And you're saying that's, because the revenue does not go up that much?
Exactly. The tax goes up, according to the $1,080,000, but the estimated net income is more than double.
But the retail sales is not double.
No.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Unfortunately, I'm not the numbers guy.
And that's okay.
That may be a glitch. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, and that's okay. And because I was looking at your slides, it looked like they were 10 to 11 body cams. You said there's 2 drivers per vehicle. There's obviously, what kind of pay do these drivers make per hour? What are the hours of operation? When can it be delivered? These are, other questions that are going to be asked when the bottom line, it comes down to how much are we getting? And from your estimated income on the sales, I can't tell. Because if we're getting 3% of the 408 in year 1, it's easy enough to figure out, but that there is a disconnect in year 2 because the numbers aren't matching up.
Jim, some of your questions are actually answered in the pamphlet that we just got today from them, so I doubt anybody's had time, but they're saying that folks will be getting $15 an hour, starting at $15 an hour, and they'll be making $30,000 to $60,000 per year.
I apologize, I didn't see that, but there's still a disconnect from year 1 to year 2.
Can you guys take a look at that, at the financials, and validate that those numbers are accurate? And
yeah, my guess is the year 1 number, the 408 number, is inaccurate, because as you can see, the revenue is going up as a steady stream, and that net income is going up. So we'll relook at our numbers, but my guess is that 408 number is inaccurate. Good catch. You're a numbers guy. I appreciate that. Keep in mind too, this is you obviously know that this is projections. There's speculation that federal legalization will happen soon. There's the MORE Act, which is a banking act, which will happen soon. All of these things change. And what the town receives for impact fees, for example, can get altered through the new law. So I would hope, especially since this is the only industry that exists in the Commonwealth that does provide a specific 3% tax back to the town, I would like to believe that that there is. What is being factored into this is reducing the black market that already exists in Hanson and already exists in Massachusetts through regulated businesses and jobs and revenue back to the state and back to the town, and that it's less about some threshold where the town says, oh, well, you don't make enough money, so we're not going to make enough money, so we don't approve you. As far as industries across the board, it is 100% more than any industry is bringing directly back to the town. So, I hope that's factored into your thinking.
I just have one question as well. I know when we spoke to Impressed LLC, when they were originally applying, they had indicated that to the extent that folks from Hanson applied, that they would be given a preference, all things being equal, in terms of credentials and what have you. Is that your intention as well, if all things being equal, that you would and whatever criteria, and I recognize as an equity partner, you might have other criteria that we're not even aware of, but should somebody meet that criteria and they are from Hanson versus another town, would a citizen from Hanson be given preference as an employee?
Absolutely, thank you for that question. And I'm going to circle back around the financials in one moment after I answer this one. So yes, you are correct. As an equity business, we do have some requirements for hiring. As in other businesses I've been involved in, we're able to layer that over with a preference for local residents as well. So whenever we're in a town, we do like to give preference to local folks. Again, especially if they're also meeting those other standards that we have for equity. So we would absolutely be recruiting within the town to find folks that would be able to meet that standard and also are interested in working for the business. And then just circling back for a minute on the financials there, absolutely understand what you're saying there about that bottom line. Number one, we'll go back and check them, but on the second piece of it, we certainly expect for there to be way more expenses in year one as we're getting up and running. Not just, obviously, some of the expenses can be put on the balance sheet there and they'll be amortized, but there are many things that we're going to be doing on the marketing side that are going to be very, one-time expenses that happen within that first year. And so our goal is always to increase the profitability of the business as we go along. I agree with you that that's quite a bit of a jump from year one to year two, considering that the revenue jump. And again, what we're trying to do here is have enough breathing room for Impress to be able to get their first harvest up and running and then go. It may very well be that by year two, we are at 2,000 pounds a year that we're able to then purchase from Impress for that 2,000 and then flip that and get $4,000 a pound, selling that out on the delivery side, right? With the right branding, with the right products. And handling that the right way. So I absolutely, and maybe what would make sense for the town, and I don't want to put more work on us, but is to have kind of like a high point and like a more reasonable, and then this is one thing any business that you're presenting, of trying to find that right balance between not over-promising so that people are upset later, but also not underselling what we could actually potentially do here with the business.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Mr. Hickey had another question, but I did want to say, I would love to see that more of like a bandwidth, like as little as this and potentially as much as that type of thing. Again, knowing that there's all these movable parts, but I think that would be preferable. And I did notice in your, again, the board, I just got this today, so the board just got it today, the documentation that you guys sent. You did say that that you'd have about $300,000 and capital outlay for the, so that may be some of the difference there. Yeah.
So, Chanel, it's Jim Hickey again. So my question would be, this first year is, with everything just starting up and what you just spoke about, does that come out of the town's possible revenue from this, or would that be off of your bottom line?
They're one and the
yes,
same.
I think this is an important piece, is that it really doesn't matter if we win or we lose as a business, the town gets paid, right? So I think it is important for us to understand that it isn't the bottom line that drives what goes to the town. It really is that top line, sales and revenue, and so the town is protected in either event.
Okay.
Obviously, it's important for us to sustain as a business, because if we go out of business, then the town doesn't get anything going forward unless, another group comes in. And I'm sorry if my computer is cutting up a little bit. Hopefully you heard that answer.
Yeah, so we did hear that, but so when the next time, when you rerun those numbers, I think this is kind of where Jim's going. So when you rerun these numbers, although it's interesting to us what your net income will be, I think we want to know what's in it for us, really. What's the bottom line that you're projecting for us?
Awesome. I think that's great advice, and thank you for that. What we can do is streamline the projections. So we're looking just at the top line that is impacted by the town and being able to kind of approach it from that way, rather than something that might have too much information for everybody to to comprehend because it is a quick meeting, obviously.
Okay, awesome, and we've got a couple other board members, I just wanna check with them and see, Mr. Weeks, did you have anything?
Yeah, please. So thanks for doing this, I really appreciate it. I'm gonna say to you all what I had said earlier, is that, you know, in this town, you're gonna come up at town meeting with a couple of different things. You could have a whole bunch of people there that do not want this to go through no matter what. You are gonna have a whole slew of people that just want marijuana to pass in all of its forms, and you don't have to convince them. But you have a vast majority of people in this town that need convincing of two things. The first and the foremost, and this is the one I was looking at, I appreciate the presentation, but the second document that I have is the one that we've been looking for. This is the operation regulatory requirements, basically outlining, because I had asked for this myself, that the town wants to make sure that from, as you put it like this, from seed to sale, that it is not going to fall into the wrong hands. And I do appreciate that this is laid out in the regulatory way. But when we're talking about trying to sell this to our constituents, to our town, they want to know that this is their policy and procedure. I understand that by default, because I come from a place that gets licensed, I'm a counselor, so I have licensing requirements with all kinds of regulatory authorities. It's not good enough to tell a parent whose kid we're serving that because DCF or EEC or DESE is telling us to do it, that's why we're doing it. What matters to the parents that I work with is you're doing it because this is what you are choosing to do, which more often than not exceeds the state requirements for what they're supposed to be doing, because that ensures that you are passionate about it and you are listening to the constituents and the consumers of the community. So what I'd like to see is to make sure that this document, I don't even know if you can see it, this document, shows that it's an impress document, not just simply the regulatory. And while you were talking, given the presentation, you know, it's a great document, don't get me wrong. My only tweak would be is to put the impressed logo somewhere on this so we know it's yours. We know it's something that you're gonna follow, that it's something in your employee manual. No, I mean like in the header, the footer, all of that.
And I'm sorry, I don't think we can see the document. Are you talking about the regulatory and security?
It's the delivery operator regulatory requirements, and you have gone through and made flow-through changes to say LaFleur LLC and where applicable, Impressed LLC, but I think Mr. Weeks is just saying, could we see some logos so that it feels and looks more customized and not like it's just something generic that you plucked out of the Massachusetts regulations?
Yes, and I'm just trying to give kind of tips and tricks to try to sell this a little bit more to being through as many town meetings as I have, and having been on the committee, the planning board, when we were trying to, not once but twice and maybe arguably 3 times, wrote the zoning bylaws for the various ways in which marijuana zoning was happening and the regulations were happening when the commission came out. The town has a pulse right now that safety is number one. The second thing is, and I would just say this, people care about the revenue, but I think the revenue is not as important, in my opinion, as the safety component. So you could tell everybody here it's going to be $1 million, but I can guarantee off the top of my head 2 people that are going to stand up and they're going to say, it doesn't matter, our kids are not worth the money. So what you need to do is, you know, sit there and put it out there, because the top half of the spectrum is going to say, no, this is great, because we can actually see raw numbers. But I can't emphasize enough, the delivery mechanism, again, great presentation. I would love to see that on our website as an information leading up to it. But I don't think at town meeting, people are going to want to, this was all due respect, but they're not going to want to listen to legalese around a very detailed plan. I appreciate it, don't get me wrong. I think a vast majority of those folks will appreciate that too. But we're gonna have 35-something articles to get through that night. They're gonna want quick, concise, how does this keep my kids safe? How do we make sure that the community is being enriched in some way? So that's what I would kind of lean with. And I think that this document here is gonna be the key to getting that. So I would just like to see a little bit more of the impressed business on this.
But so you're saying at town meeting, hit the high points and focus on the safety measures that you're taking as, lead with that, and then as a follow-up, the money, and then just as a handout, I think it would be a good idea if we had this and perhaps the business plan at town meeting.
Well, even if we can get it and put it up there early, because then the next thing we're gonna hear, and rightfully so, is, I don't have time to read it, this is a 30, 40-page document. How do I get as much information out as possible? And I'd like to think that all 7 to 10 people that are watching this right now, and between now and October 3rd, they're not gonna be passing this around in setting this information. So the more we can give them to read ahead of time, with those details and with this very specific thing, is gonna have more informed voters at town meeting. Because we usually get, 100-ish, give or take?
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, right? So if you have 51 people there that are not buying it, and then you give them too much information last minute, all of this work is gonna be for naught, and I know you put a lot into this. So those are just gonna be, some things I would ask you to consider, moving into this.
And I think, Mr. Weeks, Mr. Donovan, I believe we can put these up on our website, once we post the warrant with some of these as backup material.
Yes.
And then, I think, we're gonna have to have a conversation with the town clerk about having the materials available, and then with the town moderator, about making sure that there's a 5 to 10 minute window for folks to present. So,
That's a great comment, thank you for that, appreciate it. I direct, my documentation towards inspectors, which they don't like to see any colors, they just want the facts, but I appreciate that. This is for parents and town members, so we can alter that for sure.
all right,
Those
Mrs. Rand.
same 2 people that you're talking about are also gonna want to have the numbers. That's why I brought it up, because that's what I heard. So it's gonna have to be a good presentation presented, and
Mr. Hill.
sorry.
One thing we mentioned before, and it's in the documentation, is does not include delivery to Hanson.
Right.
That is
Right.
correct.
Well, we have not discussed that yet.
According to the.
As far as October.
We have not discussed that yet, and we need to decide that, as a board.
And then one thing, there's something Chanel mentioned earlier, was a 1% equity. I don't know if everybody else on the board understands what that is, but I do not understand what that.
Chanel, can you hear Mr. Hill?
Yes, and thank you again for the suggestions for the meeting. We can definitely streamline, hit those high points and make sure that, we have the materials. If we have like a couple more days on the materials, we can kind of go back, flush through the numbers a bit more, and also make sure that we make our regulatory piece, which we know a lot of people will look at, a little more pretty, get our logos on there and that kind of thing, and we can send those over. When it comes down to the equity piece, there was a big omnibus cannabis bill that was just passed, and part of it was giving some money back to social equity businesses. Other pieces were adjusting the HCA requirements, and one piece that we were able to get included was that for towns who accept and let equity businesses site, that they would get an extra 1% back from the taxes to the town kitty because of that. And so we can present more information on that as well, but it would be basically more money from, and it doesn't come from us either, which is a great thing. It comes from the taxes that go to the state. Instead, 1% will come back to the town.
Did that answer your question, Ed?
Thank you.
Did anybody else have any other comments or questions? Okay, that is a lot to unpack. We appreciate it. I know this is stuff you guys live and breathe all day long, but, we're all in a very steep learning curve here about this. So this was great. I really appreciated the thoroughness, and the information that you've presented. So it sounds to me like next steps are you guys are gonna go and kind of, be responsive to some of the comments that you've received here, give the numbers a once over, perhaps dumb down, a little bit of what might be presented at town meeting, so that it's a little less dense and a little bit more user-friendly, although I appreciate your thoroughness, but I think what the board's saying is when we get to town meeting, people are all about getting down to business and getting the vote done, and so you gotta strike that right balance of sufficient amount of information for people to make a decision without overkill. which is a tricky little balance, but we'll leave that up to you folks to try to find that balance, and we'll work with you. And once you think that you've, finished this up and you've polished it up, send it to Mr. Donovan, our interim town administrator, and then he can circulate it to the rest of the board. And if we have any other comments or thoughts, we'll definitely share them with you.
Great, and I think anything that we can do to front load the town with the presentations or whatever, we'll talk about that, what we could present there, because that way we could streamline the presentation at the actual meeting by referencing the fact that, if we're going quickly, for example, I think all of Ezra's slides are very important, right, to understand what this would actually look like, but if we were able to kind of quickly touch on those and tell folks for more of the intimate details, they could check out, what was already posted, and that has been up for quite some time, right? Like you were mentioning there, to make sure that people have had that ability to take a look and have that responsibility to take a look.
Yep, absolutely, Chanel. As soon as you guys get us the final product and we all have a chance to just take a look at it and make sure that it kind of reflects what we've all, given you for feedback and we feel comfortable with it, we'll pop it up on the website. But additionally, one of the things I had asked Mr. Donovan was whether we could also make the more expanded version available as a handout at town meeting. So that for those who, want a little bit of light reading while they're sitting there waiting to get to whatever article they came to, talk about, they can make their way through this, but then you'd also have the opportunity to do the more abbreviated presentation. So I think that will strike the right balance of those who want to know and do the deep dive, they can plumb the depths of what you've got here, and others can just kind of hit the high points with you. But this is great, we really appreciate it, we'll let's keep the communication loop open, and whenever you guys can get the updated materials, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Tony Hanson. Appreciate this very much. And
all right, take care, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
All right, so, we have got, we're supposed to be discussing the warrant, but Mr. Means has been here for quite a while, and so, Mr. Means, I know we had the Thomas Mill agreement on our agenda a couple meetings ago, and all of us looked at one another. We literally had no idea what we were talking about, so therefore we could not discuss it. And serendipitously, I ran into you, and you said, well, I can explain all that and give you a little bit of an update. So I really hate to torture you, but do you mind popping up to the podium and just letting us know who you are and who you represent?
Hi, I'm Mike Means. I'm on the Thomas Mill Committee. The committee chair couldn't make it. He had prior arrangements, so I came in for him. That application, I'm looking for you guys to approve. What we had before was just a piece of paper, put the renter's name on it, address, phone number, and it had the fee on it, and that was it. So we kind of took Camp Kiwanis, modeled it, simplified it a little bit to meet more of the Thomas Mill building. Sent it to Lisa, who sent it to the town attorney, made a couple of more changes. Then we brought it back to our committee. We approved it and brought it back to get you guys' approval. On that, you'll also see it's a small increase, I know. It used to be $25 for 24 hours over there. The new fee we're looking to, as long as you guys agree to it tonight, is $40. Again, for the 24 hours. There's no running water, there's no bathroom facility. It's just an open building. But we're looking to go up down the road some more. The place is gonna start needing some work, and I'll be approaching you guys about stuff for that as well. But we figured small steps is better than one giant step.
Yep.
And see what everybody thinks on it from there.
I had a question for you, Mr. Means.
Yeah.
I've noticed when people rent the facility, it appears that, are we allowing folks to get in the night before? It's a 24-hour period?
Yep.
So, okay, so for instance, if I was having some kind of a shindig, I could get in the night before, then I could set up early in the morning, but I need to be out by that night?
Yep.
Okay, all right. And is there some rule that we're not allowing can you explain, I thought I saw something in this, new application, and perhaps it's always been our intention, but, I know there used to be like artisan events type of thing there, so maybe I would rent it, but then I'd have a group of friends or other vendors or whatever. Is that something we're not allowing anymore, or?
What we had going on in there is we were renting it for $25.
Yep.
And then we had other people would come in, they'd rent it for the $25, and then they'd rent it to their friend for a spot for $20, to their friend for a spot for $20, to their friend a spot for $20. So now they're making $100, just throwing numbers out there, I don't know the exact numbers, and we made $25 on it. And we did we're doing all the maintenance, we're taking care, it's like, and now, if something goes wrong, somebody gets hurt, all we have is that original renter's information. So we'll know, we have nothing. So it's kind of a liability thing. So by renting it to one person, I mean, they can have all the friends they want to come down and do it with them, but they just can't sublet out anymore because we're running a business.
But I do appreciate where you're coming from, but I'm wondering if there's a different way to skin that cat. Because those are the events that really bring community together, and I certainly want to support small businesses and artisans and those types of things. And I know during COVID, several people had those types of events, and people were just thrilled to be able to get out and use the mill. And so I'm wondering whether you might be able to, and you don't need to do it tonight, we could certainly vote on this, but think like you had on the future. I'm wondering if we might be able to think about whether the fee would be larger, because it's gonna be more people using the facility, and whether the language would be different, like, you're gonna be responsible for anybody you bring in here, and the fee would be larger. I just, because I hate to really see that not be able to be used for.
I hear exactly what you're saying. We had concern brought to us by town officials as well as residents about what's going on here. Why is this getting rented out like this? Why aren't we making the money? We should be making the money on this. And so the best thing we did is we come up with what we could with that.
Yeah.
And sent it through your office to the town attorney. And that's basically the way they came back with, this is probably the best way to deal with this right now.
Well, so can you take that under consideration to circle back with the?
Yeah, we can circle back and see if we can get some more information and find a better way, another way of coping with that issue of, yes, maybe a larger fee if you want to run a business event out of it or something. And maybe another liability form.
Yeah, that's
just,
what I'm thinking, yeah.
As a volunteer committee, we're trying to protect ourselves as well as the town.
Oh, 100%, I 100% appreciate that.
We're trying to look out for trying to look at the big picture, not the immediate picture. You get what I'm trying to say?
No, that's great. Did anybody else have any questions or comments? Oh, Mr. Hickey. You go first, yeah. Okay, Mrs. Ray.
No, I'm kind of baffled at why the town, the mill itself, wouldn't be sponsoring these things.
We could, in all seriousness, that's been a thought in my mind, to look into doing something like that.
Table fee, and the vendors come in, I do fairs all the time.
That's been running through my mind, as doing as a fundraiser for the town.
Exactly.
But I'm thinking of talking with the committee about it and stuff, about for next year. We've been too busy with trying to get some other things done at the moment, like getting this paperwork done. We've been working on this, unfortunately, since the beginning of COVID. I hate saying COVID, but since the beginning of it, that's when we started this process of trying to get this better set up.
No, and you know what, this really, to me, kind of, and I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I will get back to the main point. We've got a strategic planning event that's coming up in November, where we're trying to get kind of hands across the water, all different folks from committees, boards, whatever, to try to come up with a vision for the town. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we've been talking about, and Mr. Melissi has asked actually, to rename the Recreation Commission to the Camp Kiwanee Commission, because it's really not a proper name. Like, people are always asking them, and they'll ask me, oh, those people, the Recreation Commission, why aren't they doing all kinds of, well, it's like, I'm sorry, but that's not what their purview is. They're really responsible for Camp Kiwanee, which is more than sufficient for one well-intentioned committee to have on their plate.
I used to work there, I know, I agree.
So the reason I'm saying that is I think one of the things that most likely will come up as part of this strategic planning session is we need a recreation commission who actually is responsible for planning recreation in the town. And it seems to me as though that would dovetail with, with the recreation commission who would be looking for locations. And yes, some of the things might be up at Camp Kiwanee, but they might be at the Thomas Mill, they could be on the Town Hall Green. And right now, we've got a lot of really well-intentioned people, you know, like we've got the Holiday Fest people, I do the Hanson Day, you know, there's all these different people doing different things. The 200th Anniversary Committee did a bunch of stuff. But it'd be nice to have one little umbrella where people are actually talking to one another and saying, hey, in October, I've got this going on, but we don't have anything going on in November. Do you guys want to throw an event? And I think Scouts would be part of that conversation, you know, all these different little Kiwanis, Rotary, we need like a little cross-pollination and communication across all of these very well-intentioned volunteers.
I agree.
So that's my long-winded way of saying, maybe put a pin in that, and I think it could come up at the strategic planning session.
Not a problem.
Okay, so, all right, well, did anybody have any other questions or comments? All right, then I will entertain a motion to, approve the Thomas Mill rental agreement.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, great, and thank you so much, and I apologize for the disconnect of the.
No worries, I understand, things happen. No worries at all. I'm glad it's taken care of. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank the committee for everything that they're doing.
All right.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. And our next order of business is request town administrator Lisa Green to borrow against her vacation days in accordance with the employment agreement. For those that have been following along with the story of Miss Green being on medical leave, you'll remember in the last chapter, the board had voted that we would hire an interim town administrator, which I was remiss, and I would like to go in the Wayback Machine and introduce our interim town administrator, Kevin Donovan, and our new executive assistant, Lynn McDowell. So my apologies, but we were in the throes of a few issues at the time. And so we voted to bring Mr. Donovan in, who's been amazing and has hit the ground running and been so supportive and gotten us right on track. And the same can be said for Miss McDowell. So we're extremely fortunate to have both of these folks. But circling back to Miss Green, she is on medical leave, projected probably to return somewhere in October. We don't have an exact date. And when we looked at how we might be able to mitigate her financial impact of this medical leave, it turns out that because this board a couple of years ago stopped the practice that we had of unlimited sick time for all new employees, Miss Green does not have any sick time left because you have to accrue it. And so her only option at this point is to borrow against future vacation time that she would have this year. And so that's where we're at. Did anybody have any questions?
Unlimited sick time?
Yes, Ann. Jim and my head literally were like cartoon characters when we heard that for the first time.
Wow.
Yes. It was an emoji.
Well, obviously, sometimes things come up where you wish you had that for a person.
Well.
But what we did offer as a board, we said, look, we want to be good employers, right? Yeah. But we don't want to be overly generous. It's, after all, taxpayers' money. But we need to be decent. For starting with Mr. Stanbrook, we were willing to pay part of a short-term and long-term disability, so people could avail themselves of that. Ms. Green had not had an opportunity to do that. So that's where we're at. Did anybody have any questions? And we did have legal counsel look at this.
Yeah, not so much a question, just point of order. So under Section 8 of our contract, it says that with the approval of the board, the town administrator may borrow against her expected accrual, provided that the town administrator pay back the town for a negative.
Yes. Yep.
For those that might know, want to know, watching from home, it's all okay. It's all part of the contract, it's all fine, if the board decides to do that.
But can you just elaborate that this isn't fronting it without any, if you know, and again, you know, I'm just hypothesizing here, but if for some reason something were to happen where Ms. Greens borrows against her vacation time and then returns and does not accrue the vacation time that we've allowed her to borrow, she would be owing the town money. So we're not really,
There is accountability.
there is a coverage in her contract for that.
And that's why I would, to try to speed up tonight's meeting, let her borrow 2 weeks until our next meeting where we can revisit this. If we give her 4 and we get into a situation like Joe had just talked about, if you go to page 3 of her contract, section D, where if she does get terminated, we have to give her 3 months pay, which is fine. It would only be 2 months pay because we gave her 4 weeks. But if she leaves, how are we gonna recoup the money? And I'm not saying Lisa's gonna leave.
Right.
I'm just saying if she were to leave, we can't force her to pay it back, and are we really gonna chase it? So, I mean, and I get the situation, and she doesn't have sick time, and, I mean, you're talking to a person that has been out of work for almost 18 months now, that, let's see what happens in 2 weeks, see how she's feeling in 2 weeks.
I think,
to
well,
approve.
I mean, it's not really a matter of how she's feeling. I'm trying to be careful because we've got HIPAA issues here, but,
Right.
it is clearly going to be after town meeting that she's returning. She's got very clear indications from her doctor about that. So it really isn't a matter of how she's feeling, it's when she'll be permitted to return. And in terms of our, recourse, we clearly have a contract. Whether or not we decided to pursue that or not would be a different thing, but I would submit to you that she is part of the Plymouth County pension, plan, and I am sure that there is some ability for us to leverage that, in order to ensure that we, receive repayment. Mr. Donovan, did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think that the question really becomes is that in the four corners of the contract, you have the language before you that indicates you have the ability to do that. I guess the question becomes is if we get information, we don't, as you indicated, we don't know exactly when she's going to be back. Is it going to be the end of the month? Is it going to be in October? When I spoke to her the other day, she didn't in fact know she had to consult with her doctor. So at that point in time, I guess it would be whatever the board wants to do. You have up to the 20 days. It can certainly be revisited in 2 weeks, and maybe by that point we'd know further as to what her actual return date would be, but it's out of it right now. Starting this week would be nothing if something isn't agreed to.
So how do other people feel about doing the 2 weeks? Mr. Hill?
No, I'm good doing the full, the 20 days or
Mr. Weeks?
20 days.
20, yeah.
I wish I had a stronger opinion on this. I feel like if we go to the 10 days, it brings us to the 27th September Select Board meeting. It's fine. And then we do it again for another 10 days, or do the 20 days now. I don't have an opinion one way or another, really.
I think it's prudent to do the 10 and 10.
Okay, I can see, I'm in a position I don't want to be in, which is,
Yeah, you're gonna have to make that decision.
Yeah, no, I'm not, it's the board making the decision, but I just, I absolutely can see what you're saying, but I'm trying to put myself in.
Can I put myself in a personal position here?
Yes.
All right, without disclosing any HIPAA.
It's
I
probably
think
true.
she's gonna be out until the end of October.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right. Is
Personal
that-
experience.
Okay, yeah. All right, so where I was going was, I think it's, already a difficult time for her, and I don't want to add to the difficulty, but if you're saying.
The 20 days, you want the 20 days?
Well, that's what I was leaning towards, but,
Okay.
but, I am
We're
really.
gonna be back here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, appreciating where you guys are coming from, so I think I'm okay. It is more prudent to do the 10 days, there's no way to dispute that. I just hope that it doesn't signal to her that
Right.
we don't have confidence in her, or that we don't really want to support her, because that isn't the case.
No.
I'm sorry, Laura, to
Yeah.
interrupt. Lisa is our town administrator, so the buck stops with her. And Lynn, tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
You are not part of the union, you signed a contract to work. Okay. We're setting a precedent. If we give the top dog, if that's what you want to call Lisa, the top person in our town, we're going to give her 4 weeks. So what happens if Lynn goes out, who is a new hire, or any other new hires that we have that don't have the unlimited sick time? Well, you gave Lisa 4 weeks, and I just think we're setting a precedent. We have a meeting in 2 weeks, we can revisit it in 2 weeks, and if she's going to be out longer, then we'll make that decision then.
You know what, I think the devil's in the details on each contract and what it says, and I don't think that they all don't have identical language.
But all new employees have, or do not have unlimited,
That is a true statement, but they do not all have the provision that we would have allowed
Right.
this. So, never the twain shall meet. However, I think we are meeting in 2 weeks, and I probably would have voted for the 20 days if we had a rock-solid return date. But since we don't, I feel comfortable saying the 10 days. And then I think, we'll have Mr. Donovan reach out, explain where we were at, that if we had had a more solid date, then we would have been able to make a more informed decision. And that we'll revisit it at the 27th meeting, because we are meeting on the 27th, which is fortuitous, and we'll just take it from there. Mr. Donovan, does that seem appropriate?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, all right, so I am looking for a motion. Are you guys feeling okay with this?
Yes. Well, I'm fine
Okay,
with
you're
it,
kind
either
of-
way.
Okay, all right. So then I will entertain a motion to allow Ms. Green, and I believe there's a motion.
It's not really a this is like the contract
Okay, well,
piece.
so we need a motion to allow Ms. Green to borrow 10 days against her future vacation, and to revisit this issue at the September 27th meeting.
So moved. Oh, second.
Oh,
Okay, fantastic. Any further discussion? Okay, I will entertain I will take a full vote. All in favor? Aye. All right, great. All right, now we are moving right along here. So, we are getting into the warrant special town meeting discussion. And I wanted to let you know that we had some concerns expressed by our financial team, by FinCom, who, by the way, is meeting tonight as we speak. They were not able to get a quorum until 7:30 tonight, so it's not the way that we would really like to do this, but it's the way it is. That we will not actually know their recommendations until we meet for the walkthrough on the 27th. Well, we'll know them, I'll share them as soon as we know them, but we won't be able to discuss this a full board until the 27th. In speaking to the financial team, Todd and Mike Duggan, who's the chair of FinCom, and there's a concern that we are still quite early on in the year. If we have a tricky winter, a lot of the articles that were proposed are using up quite a bit of our free cash. Although we have a pretty healthy certified free cash figure, we should pump the brakes a bit and think about deferring a few of these large articles, large town meeting warrant articles, to the May town meeting. Specifically, the HVAC article for 200,000.
Article 6.
Yeah, in Article 6. We've got the fire station feasibility study and the HVAC study. I spoke to Mr. Tom.
As capital improvements, are we supposed to do something, because we have a quorum here, if we're talking about capital improvement items, are we supposed to?
Why don't I take a brief pause, and you can call your capital improvement meeting to order, and then we'll jump right back into it.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure we didn't
Yeah.
get into discussion.
No, it's already posted.
It is already
So, but
posted.
you just want to call your capital improvement committee into order.
Yeah, I don't really know how specifically you want me to call it, I've never called it like a joint meeting like this before.
Well, no, so you just say, the time is whatever time it is, and I'm calling the capital improvement, because it's fortuitous, it's 8 o'clock right on the dot. We're calling the capital improvement committee to order, and we've got the following members here, and then just list who they are, and then we'll jump right back into what I was saying.
Okay, so we're calling the capital improvement meeting, joint meeting with Board of Selectmen to order. The time is 8 o'clock. We have myself, Chairman, Frank Lisi, we have Kurt Tarvis, we have Joseph Weeks, Edward Neal, and then we also have Pat Wheeler in the back as well. So.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I had the opportunity to speak with Chief Thompson and with Karen Stolfer, our library director, both of whom felt that those articles were not of the most dire consequence. It did not need to happen in October, and that they could be deferred till May, and that there were no concerns. Karen said that the HVAC system, it's really the AC that's the issue at the library, and that she felt comfortable with the heat getting her through the year. And Chief Thompson basically wants the fire station, wants us to think about in the hierarchy of buildings that might need to be looked at, like we know that the library and the senior center need some attention. We certainly know that the highway building needs some attention, and he just wants this to kind of work its way into our conscious. So, and then similarly, some concerns about adding positions. And so one position that we have all agreed that we need is the part-time person for our office. There are 2 other positions that were being, in a way, added, even though the library position wasn't added, but the optics are that it's being added, and that the conservation agent would be made full-time, and the finance team really is recommending that we not add those. So that would be Article 6, $60,000 for the fire station, and then the HVAC, and Article 6, which is trying to like flip from one page to the other. And for some reason, my thing is completely all out of order, so. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Fire station.
100,000 for the fire, and, I'm sorry, let me just, I don't know why.
To you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest question that I have, the biggest concern is how much money are they willing to let us spend on capital expenses then? Yeah, I mean, that's been so, I understand everybody's busy, I understand everybody has different jobs other than doing what they do here, but, you know, we are less than a month away from town meeting, we still don't have a number on how much we can actually spend on capital improvement for the special town meeting.
That answer can't, it needs to come from.
It's more of a statement than it is.
Yeah, it has to come from the FinCom, and it really wasn't them saying that we couldn't spend the money. What Todd is saying is if we have a hell of a winter, and we don't know what we're gonna have, we're gonna deplete everything with snow. We will be down to bare bones minimum. I'll get you in a minute, Ms. Cavardo. I think we just need to be prudent here, and it seemed a bit like honestly, the fire station feasibility study, we hadn't talked to Chief Thompson about it, you know, and he said, look, I'm trying to just set things up so that when the inevitable comes, because Chief Thompson has talked to us about the fact that he'll, you know, be retiring sometime in the next year or 2, that he's got sort of like his successor has got this already out in the, you know, universe. It's on the capital improvement plan, and we are having a conversation about it. I said duly noted, but this meeting is really not the meeting for that. It should be at the annual town meeting. And the other thing that we're concerned about is we don't know what financial shape we're gonna be in when we get hit with the school district bill. So I can't answer your question, Frank. I don't, and unfortunately Todd couldn't join us this evening, so.
Yeah, so the main issue that I have is all except for one of these articles, the town bill replacement, which was just presented to us, were deferred, from my knowledge, were deferred from the May town meeting into the October special town meeting. So so what we're doing to the department heads now is we're saying, okay, what do you need for a capital item? We can't do it in May, go do it in October, right? October's gonna be a time, and then when it happens in October, we say, no, it's gonna be in May. So now, instead of a library HVAC system that, you know, for $200,000, who knows, in September it could cost $250, and then from that point, it won't even be installed until October, and be able to be used until the next year after that. So like the fire feasibility study, when this first came into capital improvements, it was $50,000, went up to $75,000, and now it's $100,000. So who knows, in May, it'll be $125,000. And that feasibility study won't be done until March or April of 24.
It's not a priority, though. Jerry even said that it wasn't a
I understand
priority.
it's not priority.
Yeah.
I guess it's the point of what exactly we're doing. Like if we're going to be telling the department heads who are spending time in, you know, filling out this application for capital improvements, we shouldn't set the expectation that it'll be done in May if it's really going to be done in October. We shouldn't tell them it's going to be done in October if it's not going to be done until fiscal year 24. I think the biggest priority, you know, was a 5-1 vote for the library HVAC system last night. That is the biggest priority. I think if we're going to advertise that the senior center in the library is a warming and cooling center, and it can barely do either of those, then we shouldn't.
That is not what Ms. Stolfer told me, but Mrs. Cafardo.
Well, we'll manage, hopefully nothing happens with the heating. I mean, it was put in 30 years ago, and we've been patching for probably 15 years, 20 years. You know, I mean, I understand the town situation. It's not an easy call, but
Laura, if I may, to answer Frank's question, tell them, keep doing it, okay? If they're looking for something, and we'll use Karen as an example, it's not gonna get done in October, but she needs to put it back on next May.
No, we understand that. We'll work through that with the department heads here. I mean, we have the matrix that's here, so we can do that to them. The problem that, you know, it's not a good feeling when we set up a meeting in capital improvements and we have one of the attendants there laugh us because he knows we don't have any money. When somebody told him to go to the October special town meeting and come to present it to us, and we have no power. Like, if it would at least be something if we could say, okay, we only have $75,000 this year. You know, it's not like we could have told them at that meeting and said, well, we're gonna have to do it in May because we only have 75. We didn't get any of that.
Fair enough, Mr. Melisi. I think where we're at is you are a newly formed committee. As we've discussed before, I mean, it's not a newly formed committee, newly revitalized committee, I guess I'll say. I think that we've lacked some discipline. When I say we, I mean the collective royal we, have lacked some discipline about the way that the communications have happened, about the way and timing of the various boards and committees and the department heads being brought into the process and how we're communing with one another. And we're doing the best we can to get it back on track. That doesn't mean we can fund it all at this meeting. So we really are committed to doing that. And then to add to our pleasure, for this particular town meeting, we had Ms. Green's absence, which just kind of added even more confusion to, you know, the way things are. We're back on track, but it did add a little bit of a subterfuge.
Can I ask, under an ideal circumstance, when would we have had, when would the capital improvement committee have received the certified? So take out all of the...
Yeah, I don't know that, Joe, and one of the things I talked to Frank about yesterday is we have got to sit down, because, you know, well,
the reason why I'm asking, let me
finish this, okay, hold on. We have got to sit down, and we have got to come up with a project plan that says, here is what everybody's role and responsibility is, and here's the deadlines, and here's what we're going to stick with, because we act like this stuff is new every year, and it's not. We know the timing for this. We know, you know, that you guys need stuff, that we should, like Mike's meeting right now with, you know, with FinCom, that's ludicrous. You know, at least we're getting the capital improvement matrix before the floor, you know, before town meeting floor, which we've been getting for the last... 5 years maybe, Jim, I don't even know, maybe, I think 5 years. So I hear what you're saying, you know, and we have to do better, but we're kind of like in the middle of the old disconnected process trying to fix it. Yeah,
I guess, but I just want to finish my thought. I mean, I'm not asking as a capital improvement. I'm not asking as a capital improvement person, I'm asking as a selectman. This is the second meeting where we've had the financials at the last minute. So last time it was a series of excuses, this time it's a series of excuses. I'm curious as to what, under an ideal circumstance, when we have deadlines that we say that we're not gonna adhere from, and we have departments like the capital improvement committee for one, finance committee for another, that are relying upon those deadlines because other departments are relying upon that department to have a deadline. It prolongs the entire process. So I guess when we're talking about shoring things up and making it smoother, I'm just looking at, you know, how do we do that moving forward?
Is this, I mean, this just sounds like something, it's a coordinator's job.
It is.
Are we supposed to be the coordinators?
We're not supposed to be the coordinators. Miss Green would be the coordinator, and we need to come up with honestly, in my own simple mind, the way that I think of this is, it's a project, okay? And it's a project that happens twice a year. And we know what the roles and
This is a pretty
responsibilities.
critical project.
It is, it's, honestly, it's the most important project that we have. And we need to come up with, you know, and I'm making this up, but back into it, say, okay, if we know that we're gonna have, for instance, ideally for me, I would have loved to have had having this discussion at our last meeting, right? Because then that gives people just a little bit of time to tweak, get some more additional information. And I would really love to have the dry run like 2 weeks before town meeting, not the week before, so that we're not, but this happens
Are
every.
we gonna have the finance department stuff and the?
Yes.
Everything on the 27th?
Yeah, we'll get it before, they're
We'll get it
meeting
before,
tonight,
okay.
and unless they've got some follow-up questions and they have to meet again, Mike's intention is to send us.
Because it would seem we're
you know,
going over this budget, Mr. Malisiak asked a very pertinent question, and we should be able to answer that question.
Well, I agree, and for a point of order, I've asked every single selectman meeting up to this point, when is the capital improvement committee going to get their number? I've asked every single time, and I haven't received it.
Well, who are you asking that from?
Whoever's
what
in
are you
charge,
doing
out to the ether.
Right,
to
well,
figure it
the
out.
ether would be Miss Green, who's not here right now.
Right, she was at the time.
So has anybody reached out to Mr. Donovan?
Well, no, this is the meeting when you would do that.
I've asked Mr. Dunn multiple times, and I'm not saying anything against him, but he just hasn't had the answer, right, so I.
How could he? He's been here for a week.
So
it's not even a real, it's not even a thing.
But I've asked him multiple.
For me, this is the second time. I mean, this is the second time, the second meeting. We've had it in May, gone through this, doing it again in October. Do I have to wait for May for the third time before we actually?
And that's a very legitimate
Right.
argument, it is. And it seems to me that this should be kind of like a top of the pile project that we're gonna have to work with whoever on
And
to
it's-
get to happen, because this is,
It's
I mean,
not a
it's the same
blame.
thing that I asked the question about those people, they didn't have numbers.
And the thing
We
is-
need numbers.
It's not a blaming and a shaming thing, but I do want to recognize that we have some chinks in the armor that we have to finalize. And I thought that we had this with the deadlines in setting all that up. But it goes back to capital improvement. Why do you typically get things on the floor? It's because it takes time to coordinate the capital improvement, which is supposed to be the information throughway to let the town know that they're being prioritized. And if you constantly get the numbers late, or if deadlines are missed, well, that's why you get it, because you also have a whole bunch of volunteers that already always have a quorum problem, trying to get all the department heads to come and rationalize why their project should be priority number 1 through 4 in a series of 1,000 projects.
All right, we're gonna move on. Yep. Okay,
As long as there's results.
yes, Mr. Melissa.
So so this is the priority list from the capital improvements. You know, the select board is in charge of this matrix and taking things off this matrix. Is there a specific priority that you guys see as a select board that you would like to get finished this year if we can do something?
I think we're gonna get to that as we go through the warrant. Okay, let's just take the articles one by one then. And I will, let the financial team know that, we're not open to their feedback, and we're just gonna move forward. And, which is gonna leave us in very drastic financial condition. So I just want to be on the record as saying that, and unfortunately, Mr. Hassett could not join us tonight, and he's not going to be able to join us on the 27th, so that's where we're at. Okay,
I'm sorry, if I may, I'm not saying, I just want to make it perfectly clear, I'm not saying that I'm not open to their concerns that they have here. That's not, I'm not saying we go through and fund everything here if it's gonna run out of free cash, that's absolutely not what I'm saying, so.
All right, Article 1. And just to be clear, Mr. Donovan, we have to vote to place and to close the warrant tonight, but we do not need to vote to recommend, correct? Are we able to wait till the 27th when we've got the FinCom recommendations?
Yes, you certainly can wait till that point,
Okay. And at that point, since we will have placed and closed, will any article that we decide not to move forward with based upon a FinCom recommendation need to be passed over at town meeting?
Yes, the only actual vote you need to take tonight is to close and then authorize posting of the warrant. I gave you two sets of warrants. One was the posted warrant, one was the informational warrant.
Okay.
The posted warrant has to be signed tonight, given to the town clerk tomorrow, and it'll be posted by Friday. The informational warrant, which will contain your recommendations and the recommendations of the Finance Committee, we've got a little bit more leeway on because we can actually do that up to town meeting and just go through the process at that stage.
Okay, and may I impose upon somebody to please turn the air conditioning back on? I don't know how.
It's on automatic.
It's on automatic, it's been going on and off.
Okay. So I think the way we'll proceed is, if somebody can, we can agree on who will move and who will second, to place articles. And then, I guess to the extent that we feel comfortable saying we're gonna vote to recommend it, there will be some articles that are not gonna be controversial, that I wouldn't anticipate that FinCom will, have any issues with, that are, either they don't have any money associated with them, or, they're just kind of like pro forma articles. With that, Article 1, to see if the town will transfer from available funds a sum of money to pay for unpaid bills from the prior fiscal years or take any other action relative thereto. This is just a pro forma, we do it every year. So these funds are needed to pay prior fiscal year bills. I can't imagine anybody's gonna have a problem with that. Do I have a motion to place?
So moved.
Okay, and do I have a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
It's you two.
Of
I guess it's us,
placing
yeah.
and
Moved in
recommending.
second, over there.
Yep, of placing and recommending Article 1. All in favor? Aye. All right. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws, Articles 2-12, classification and compensation, to adjust certain wages for certain positions, or take any other action relative thereto. Thanks, Charlie.
Second.
And this is just a, iteration of all of the things that we've talked about in our, wage and personnel. Now, Mr. Donovan, do we need to have a separate wage and personnel meeting to vote on this matrix?
Yeah, what I would suggest, if I may, if you want to just recess selectmen, go into wage and personnel, take your vote, and then go back to the selectmen, you can do it in 2 minutes' time.
Great, that sounds fantastic. Okay, so with that, I will entertain a motion to recess and go into our wage and personnel, meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. Mr. Weeks?
All right, I'm going to call to order the Wage and Personnel meeting at 8:19. Could I get a motion to place?
I have a question that I made my hand up before regarding wages. There seems to be a question about whether or not the library can hire a full-time custodian. It is in our budget, the money is already there. So I'm not sure why it's a concern and why finance feels it's a concern, really why anyone does, because spoke to Todd, and the money has been there. So I don't know if that's part of this article or not, but I figured I should mention it.
I think the reason, it appears, and they want to make sure that everybody understands, it appears that we're adding a position. people are not gonna, they have to be told that it's already in the budget. I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, well, we already have the
Right.
part-time position.
But this is at town meeting, they have to understand that this position has been funded.
Okay.
Right, I just think that it's incumbent upon, there is additional cost, because it's gonna bring benefits, but Karen spoke to Jean, and we've got that money there. But Karen absolutely has to make a crystal clear case that this is not a matter of adding to staff. It's combining two positions, and the out-of-pocket cost to, I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair.
No, it's fine.
And the out-of-pocket cost to taxpayers would be in the way of the benefits that go with that position.
And I will say on the explanation in the article, it reads, currently the library custodian, senior center custodian are part-time positions. The library and senior center are asking to combine the two positions to a full-time position, and no further funding is required for this position.
Okay, thank you.
It's written right in the article.
That's not completely accurate, because there is additional funding needed for the benefits.
Well, you should mention then that.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be changed then.
Yeah, it needs to be tweaked, because that's not 100% accurate.
Did Karen do that, or?
No, I'll take it.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
So, I'll accept a motion to place the article in the warrant.
So moved.
Someone else can second. All those in favor? All right, and then do we wanna make a motion to recommend?
I'll move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll accept the motion to adjourn the wage and personnel meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Okay, Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, available funds, a sum of money to supplement appropriations previously voted at the annual town meeting
Take a vote.
for various town departments, and we've got a
Okay, we
list.
still have to take a motion, a vote on the thing we just did, as a select board.
What is that?
Oh,
Wage and personnel,
Yeah,
we still have to,
wage and personnel,
the Article 2,
Okay.
we still have to do that.
Oh, all right, gotcha. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws, to adjust certain wages for certain positions or take any other action relative thereto, and it's proposed by the select board as the personnel board. I will entertain a motion to place.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
aye.
I will entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Yep.
All right, on to Article 3. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds a sum of money to supplement appropriations previously voted on at the annual town meeting of May 2022 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022. And it just gives an explanation. The purpose of this article is to supplement a number of line items, and a handout will be given at town meeting.
So moved.
Okay?
Second.
And so just for those following along, it's a $2,000 for a new executive assistant, technology, $14,220, and veterans benefits assistant of $12,000 for a total of $28,000. So, moved and seconded?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Okay, and that was to place?
yes.
And may I have a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great, so we placed and recommended, now we're up to 4. The town will, see if the town will vote to amend Article 6 of the May 2022 annual town meeting to amend the approved Recreation Enterprise Fund budget for FY '22 and to transfer, from available funds, a sum of money to supplement the funding of the Recreational Enterprise Fund budget or take any other action relative thereto. Explanation, these funds are needed to cover the current fiscal year expenses at Camp Kawani. And as you recall, a meeting or two ago, we had Mr. Melissy come and explain, and I don't think anybody really had any problems, because they've really turned the ship around there and are actually making money. So, did anybody have any questions or comments about that? Okay, I will entertain a motion to place.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. All right, Article 5. To see if the town will vote to amend Article 7 of the May 2022 annual town meeting to amend the approved transfer station enterprise fund budget for FY '22 and to transfer $239,752 from program revenues and $165,000 from retained earnings to supplement the funding of the transfer station enterprise fund budget or take any other action thereto. And somewhere in your packets, I have a plethora of documents here.
Plan of action.
There is a document entitled Plan of Action, which of course I'm not gonna be able to lay hands on because I need it. That would be amazing, but let me just see if I can find it.
We've got too many papers.
It's crazy. All right.
This.
6 pages, right there.
Oh, here we go.
It's in there, it's in
All right,
there.
there should be somewhere, in the rubble of everything we've got here, should be plan of action for transfer station budget.
Stay down further in your packet.
Right there. There we
Found a
go.
way in the
Thank
back
you,
of
sir.
Estimated to be completed prior to May 2023 town meeting. So I believe we have still got Ms. Diaz on the phone and we have Ms. Panetti, or Mrs. Panetti, I don't know how you want to be referred to, with us here from the Board of Health, which is a little tricky because I don't know, did you guys post this as a meeting?
Yes, we did.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. If we read through rationale, the financial realities of operating the transfer station have changed dramatically in recent years due to China no longer taking recyclables, inflationary impact, wage increases, and the increased use of private trash companies by households, resulting in the need to reconsider the structure and operational procedures of the transfer station to reduce the budget deficit. The recent increases in fees are a temporary remedy to the structural and functional enhancements required. The Board of Health is proposing the following action plan to be implemented forthwith in anticipation of May 2023 town meeting, at which time any definitive changes to the transfer station would be presented to the town for consideration. Now, as you will recall, prior to our May town meeting, May 2022 meeting, we had asked to have a proposal similar to what Mr. Melissy had done for Camp Kawani from the Board of Health. And we had an individual come a couple of times, but it didn't quite hit the mark of what the board was looking for. So we said at the May town meeting, we will fund half of what we project you'll need for the transfer station at the May town meeting, with the proviso that we will revisit this prior to the October town meeting, and we will hear from the Board of Health as to what they are doing to try to narrow the gap on the amount of money that they are spending. So I think what we've got here, I don't know who wants to, and I mean, I should say, we literally have like 5 minutes maybe, because in the interest of time, because we have quite a bit to get through. But I think what you're going to see is things that they're considering. So review the appropriateness of the use of an enterprise fund. I think we all can recognize that although the transfer station is often compared to the recreation, enterprise fund, they couldn't be any more different if they tried. The transfer station, as the opening paragraph of this stated, is not in the situation that it was in 2, 3, 4 years ago, where we were actually getting revenue for recyclables. We're now having to pay, and the price of all of the hauling and everything else has gone up astronomically. And because the Board of Health wanted to be prudent about increasing the fee for the stickers, the transfer station stickers, there's still that gap. They didn't want to come out of the gate and charge, $500 for a transfer station sticker, knowing that, a lot of folks that use it are on fixed budgets and maybe elderly, and that would add a burden. So you've got this cross-section of these two things happening at the same time, which is not fortuitous for them. Ms. Diaz, Ms. Panetti, I'm not sure, did you guys coordinate who might present this to us in a 5-minute or less conversation?
I think, Arlene, the plan was for me to present this plan. I
Can't hear.
I'd say go for it.
Ms. Diaz? Yep, we're gonna have, Ms. Panetti is here, so we're gonna have her, present.
Absolutely, because my internet keeps going in and out, so extra expensive.
We've noticed. Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
Okay, so just quickly going through.
Sorry, so Ms. Panetti, if you could just say who you are and then you're with the Board of Health, just for the record.
Sure, Melissa Panetti with the Board of Health. Just looking through the bullets here and going through them fairly quickly. The top two bullets, I think, are can be put under one, which is essentially we need to look at other models of operating the transfer station, including a comparison to instituting townwide pickup and looking at the cost for that compared to some of the other models. And I think that can be broken down further into objectives, looking at the necessary hours of operation, the staffing needs. We just recently pulled up the 2019 traffic study, which I've begun to look over to see which days there's greater use of the transfer station. We need to look locally at other boards with other boards of health and other transfer stations to see what do other towns similar to ours with similar demographics and sizes do to maintain their transfer station and have it hopefully come a little bit closer to budget. One of the things that I've been learning as I'm getting up to speed here is that some of our contracts are expired or near expiration and may warrant renegotiation, so we need to look into that more closely. In the office, we have to look at a number of things, including making sure all of the Board of Health employees are compliant with their certifications. We need to establish a more formal, reliable connection between the full-time attendant, the boots on the ground down at the transfer station, and the office and us on the board as a way to improve operation, identify issues that might be coming up down there immediately rather than learning about them after they've grown into something much bigger, including with any invoicing issues, and really just create a more open environment between down there and us in the office. And that might include considering Chris down at the transfer station to participate in some brainstorming ideas for improving the operation down there and maybe coming to some of our meetings. It's also been suggested that we have Gill Institute, the health agent, institute some regular meetings with the folks down at the transfer station in a more formal way. And last point under office procedures is talking with Chris about the possibility of educating citizens on ways that we can reduce weight, so diverting food, textiles, and clothing to other appropriate places. We have to look at what we anticipate needing for upcoming necessary improvements, including a generator, whether it's necessary, whether we really need one, what that will cost, will that be grant money, et cetera. And then the replacement of compactors. Apparently there are some funds available, and there are also supply chain issues there that need to be considered. So the plan really with this is in our next meeting on the 20th to sit down, and my hope is that we will divide up tasks, come up with deadlines, and start diving in with everybody taking on a piece of this. So we can come together probably more regularly than we have and look at what needs to happen for next fiscal year.
I think this is awesome, and I appreciate the effort that went into it, and I appreciate you guys putting your heads together and laying out for us the things that you think present opportunities for improvement, because we all have those. And I think for me personally, you've hit all of the things that I would want to see you guys look at. You're a separately elected board, and it's not our intention to do your job. We have enough to do with our own job. But we did feel as a board that we would not be doing our due diligence if we were just willy-nilly giving the money without any, we just weren't getting any sense that there was a kicking of tires, looking for process improvements, any of that type of stuff that was happening, or even a recognition that it should happen. But to me, you know, although it's, you know, it's a lot of things that you guys need to look at, I feel comfortable knowing that you guys have discussed that and that you are going to look at it, and that prior to the May town meeting, hopefully some of these things will be checked off as we've done this and we're able to save 15,000 because of that, or 10,000, I'm making this up, but, so I think this is a great first step, and I really appreciate the effort. Did anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Weeks, you looked.
No, I mean, I always have something to say, but I think, I think that this is an amazing first step. I think this is huge in terms of trying to kind of hone in on what we can really potentially do. But I also think it's just great to see the potential when, because to Laura's point, you know, you're outside of the jurisdiction, so it's really great to see departments coming together when you can make the argument they don't have to. So I appreciate you all being open to the feedback and wanting to work and be open to really just trying to make the town a better place, because you really could just kind of ignore us. And this is just a great example of good people coming together. So thank you very much for this.
Sure.
Mr. Hickey, any questions?
Melissa, why are you laughing?
You be easy on me now.
Just wanted to say congratulations on winning the Board of Health seat.
Thank you.
I'll ask you the same thing that I asked Kerry, is that I would like an update on the progress.
Sure.
We both know the problems there. You're trying to catch up, I understand that.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna hammer you tonight, but it says one of the last things that you meet more regularly than you do.
Sure.
So since the last meeting I went to, I believe it was in May, and the Board of Health meets once a month.
We have met more frequently than that since I was elected, not because of me, but just as a time frame.
Right, and that's one of the first steps, and Joe, you're absolutely right about the communication. What I'd like to see is more communication, because like Joe said, we have no jurisdiction, but we have to work together.
Sure.
The last thing I want to see is the transfer station closed. So I just, welcome aboard.
Thank you, and thank you for bearing with me as I hit the ground running with this and learning not just about transfer stations, but all of the other things. So I appreciate
the next meeting is on the 20th?
Next week.
And is that at 4 p.m.?
That is at 4 p.m., yes.
And I think we probably will, we'll think about maybe having you guys come just like we do other departments, and we've got to get back in this habit. We were doing this on a regular basis. We had every meeting, somebody, either a department head or a different committee or board, would come and give us a 5 or 10 minute update, just to keep those lines of communication open. I hope you guys are also going to be open to participating in the strategic planning session.
Yes.
Because I think, once again, that's a cross-pollination, and some of the things that you're talking about here, maybe somebody else has dealt with or has some insight or has some ideas, and I think it will help break down some barriers and open up some more effective communication. Mr. Hickey, were you not done?
I only had 2 more questions.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
And I know I'm hitting you on the spot with
That's
this,
okay.
but by any chance, do you know how many transfer tickets have been sold there?
I know that it is about approximately a third of the town has a transfer station sticker. The stickers, do you want the number?
Yeah.
Do you want the actual number? The number I received last week from Todd was 76,878 in stickers.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, not the income, the actual stickers. The actual...
Well, how much are they per sticker? You can just... Well,
They're,
$100.
they're 100 for 2 years.
yeah, so.
So,
721, was that it?
No, she said 76,000, so
76,000,
7,600, 7,600 people.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, my daughter calls us
706, because I have,
Arlene, do you have the number of
two stickers.
tickets?
Arlene's got it, 706.
700,000.
I know we sold over 2,000, but you have to take
Right.
into consideration that.
And it would be that.
Someone's buying, can you hear me?
Not really, no.
Can you hear me?
No.
My number's 1221.
yeah, it's about a third of the town.
2,000, but some households get multiple,
I have two.
Okay, that's
so they
okay.
not include all households.
Correct.
The only other question, Melissa, I have is that you're gonna use the $165,000 that you have in retained earnings to keep the transfer station open as is until June 30th.
Correct.
So the plan that you've showed us tonight is basically looking for July 1
Yes.
of '23.
That's correct.
Because you will have no money.
Zero.
At all.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Mrs. Rain, any questions?
No, I'm getting up to speed at this myself. I have to say, I am an ardent supporter of our transfer station. I do not want to see it closed.
As am I. I think it's critical. And, you know, I, just anecdotally, you know, you keep hearing that a lot of the people that are doing the curbside, the prices are just going up. Now, there's fuel costs that they're all charging now, that, you know, and then as the competition becomes smaller and smaller and these companies are getting eaten up, they know that, you know, once a town goes to curbside, you kind of don't have a lot of negotiating power, but that's just my 2 cents. Mr. Weeks, any other questions or comments? Mr. Hill? Okay, so fantastic job, Mrs. Kennedy, and Mrs. Diaz, and Mr. Perkins, who is not with us, but I will entertain a motion to place Article 5.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, and I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 5.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And thank you, Arlene.
All right, thank you, Ms. Diaz.
Welcome.
Okay. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer the following sums of money from the sources as more specifically identified below to be expended for the following capital equipment and capital projects for various town departments, or take any action relative thereto. So we've got the HVAC, I didn't think 100,000 was right, it's $200,000 for the HVAC, and it's $60,000 for the security cameras, and $100,000 for the fire. And then we've got highway infrared pavement recycler trailer, and highway vent track sidewalk snow removal and sweeping tractor with brush arm. So this is proposed by the select board and by the capital improvement. There's descriptions here in the explanations, and I must say it's kind of nice to have it consolidated this way, which I don't know that we've always done. I think since we've got you here, Mr. Schaub, and thank you for your patience, was there anything that you, I mean, I think that your articles are fairly self-explanatory. This is equipment you need to do the job.
Yes, they were previously for October, and I pushed them off until May.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the sidewalk, the piece of equipment you have now is 25 years old. So if we lose that, we can't do the sidewalks.
Okay.
And the other machine, it's $5,000 a day to rent one, so it's gonna pay for itself in a short period of time, and it's something we definitely need.
Okay, so did anybody have any questions for Mr. Schaub?
There's a question on the floor that might answer my question.
Yeah, so, the security cameras are actually one thing that is divided up into 3 different departments for those security cameras. So one of them is Camp Kawani, I believe one of them is the town hall, one of them is the library. If you combine all 3, they hit that capital improvement matrix threshold of 10 years of $35,000.
Yep.
If you, for example, at Camp Kawani, we're spending $20,000 on our own funds for that security camera system. And then the library has, I believe, an additional, I think that's $20,000, and then town hall's $20,000. That's why they weren't included.
All right, well then, should we say Camp Kawani also on this, Article 6? Because it only says Town Hall, Library, Senior Center.
So
And it's 60,000.
It's 60,000 for both of those? Okay, so then we wouldn't need to add Camp Quaney because that's part of our retained earnings. We don't need a meeting article for that. We don't need a town meeting article for that.
But is the price still 60,000 for?
The price for Camp Quaney is 20,000. If
Yep.
that's 60,000 just for those two, then it would be 30 and 30.
Okay, so we're good on
Still
this.
be under the
Yeah,
threshold.
okay, so, but we're good for this. What are you saying? You want us to divide it up into the two articles?
I'm saying that the capital improvements did not propose a security system because it didn't come to us. If you want to add it in there as a caveat of the board of selectmen, but the capital improvements didn't receive any proposals for security systems here because they don't meet our thresholds.
Well, can't we just do 30,000 for town hall, 30,000 for library senior center, and just add another line item in here?
Yeah, you can do that, and this article is, it's the selectmen's warrant, so if you want to break it out that way, that's fine.
Yeah, I think the reason that probably it was done this way is Steve, for the purposes of getting the best bid possible, tried to bundle when he went out to bid, so I think that's why it came in that way.
I mean, we could always add it to our matrix. We have a quorum and we're in a meeting right now, so I mean, if we wanted to discuss adding.
I don't think you need to over-engineer it. Like, I think we're fine to break it out. This was really more reflective of the quote Steve got, so because he got it as one quote, I think we just threw it on there as one quote, yeah.
So given that, which one are we missing? Didn't we have 5 items?
No, I have 5 items on my list right here, the library, the fire department.
And I have 5 items on the warrant, but we didn't discuss this.
Doors.
No, we haven't done those two yet.
No, you have the doors, town hall doors, but there's already an appropriation article for the town hall doors. There was previously the doors, yeah.
Okay, so we've discussed the 2 highway, we've discussed the cameras. The feasibility study for the fire, why don't we have a conversation about that? Does anybody feel very strongly that we need to fund that at this town meeting?
No.
No.
Where are we at right now? I'm sorry.
Feasibility study for fire.
Oh, no. Chief Thompson says it's not pertinent, then we can agree.
Okay. And the HVAC system, does anybody feel very strongly that we need to fund it for this town meeting?
No.
This is the one.
Karen said they could go with
Karen
it.
did say,
She
I mean,
said
I
we
had
could
a
go
very
through the
long
winter.
conversation with her, I think it was on Sunday. I felt bad calling her like on a weekend, but, yes, Mr. Tarvis.
The odds of it going up to significantly higher than that are extremely likely to push this off. And then if they have to do repairs, so now if they're only asking for $200,000 for this, they had to put in $20,000 into it, and then it's $240,000 next year. We're wasting money. We're wasting more money.
I mean,
how much work has been put into that? Enough to buy a new unit at this point, right?
she said it's about $5,000 to $10,000 a year, at the most, which includes servicing.
Right.
And I don't want to say I'm an HVAC expert, but I do a lot of quotes for somebody who is. And the materials have not gone up significantly. They went up during COVID, and there definitely are supply chain issues with getting it, but as far as the materials themselves going up, my experience has been that that's plateaued.
Well, that's good. The one industry in the country that has.
Well,
So, another thing that's missing from this capital improvement matrix that was not brought to us is the additional $60,000 for the highway department study. In capital improvement guidelines in the state of Massachusetts, studies relating to capital items are also a part of the capital matrix. I know that's another article that's down here.
We'll get to that, but that didn't come to you because of a weird disconnect, but we'll have a conversation about that, and again, it's something I did talk to Mr. Shaw about. In fact, we can jump to that after we wrap this one up, just for the interest of you actually getting home to your family by a decent time. Mr. Shaw will take that. So where are we at with the HVAC?
Can't put it on.
Okay, Ms. Rain?
I don't think it needs to be.
Okay, and what do you guys?
I'll go along with Karen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right, so to recap, on Article 6, we're looking at installation of security cameras, which we're gonna have Mr. Donovan break out into two $30,000 items. And then we're looking at Mr. Schaub's highway infrared pavement recycler trailer and Ventrac sidewalk snow removal.
Yes.
Okay, so, with those changes, I will entertain a motion to place Article 6.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, and I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 6 with those changes.
So moved.
Okay.
I will second it, but I want to just consider, this is one of those situations where I'd always like us to defer to town meeting versus make a recommendation on it, because it's the town determining what they want to prioritize and spend their money on.
I mean, you can certainly take, you can, let's get through this motion, and then if it doesn't carry, I guess you could make that motion, or you could vote that way, I guess, to defer to town meeting. I mean, it's an abstain, I guess, if we vote to recommend and you don't want to recommend.
No, I'll recommend.
Because the vote on the on the floor right now is.
The vote to recommend happened faster than me being able to say, I would like us to consider deferring to town meeting. So it hasn't received a second yet. So you either.
No, we did get a first and a second, but okay, what are you saying, Mr. Hill?
Should I take
It's
mine
up to-
back?
No, it's up to you.
No, I'll second it.
Oh, you already seconded it?
Sure.
Okay.
To defer to town meeting?
No, I'll second Ed's motion to
Okay,
recommend.
all right.
If Joe wants to change it, then he can.
Well, let's carry through the vote, and okay. Okay, so I've got a motion, I'm getting punchy here, okay. So we've got a motion and a second, all in favor of recommending Article 6 with the changes as discussed.
It's fine.
Okay. All opposed? Anybody abstaining? I didn't see what you guys were doing, so.
All five of us
We
raised
all
that.
raised
Okay, all right, sorry, I would have saved you all that discussion.
So did you guys strip item 1 and 2 out of the capital matrix?
Yes.
And put the security camera and all?
1 and 3.
1 and 3.
One and
Stripped
three.
1 and 3.
Can you look at here?
The fire and the library.
HVAC and fire feasibility, and then we're splitting,
1 and 3.
then we're splitting the,
Two is the
and then we're
cameras.
splitting 2 into 2 articles. The security cameras are being split,
30 and 30.
and HVAC and fire are,
And the doors are somewhere else.
The doors are already appropriate. Mr. Donovan talked to me earlier today about it, so they don't need to be on this capital
Right.
matrix for that.
okay.
But I mean, why wouldn't we leave them on there, and then once we get a number that we can have, we can just pass over 1 and 2 to appropriate the rest of them? I guess the matrix that we have here that has 1 through 5, and that I see is 1 through 5, you guys see 1 through 6, or 1 through 5 without the door replacements. Why wouldn't the whole matrix be set on there, and then we can, once we actually get a number, let's say it's $100,000, capital improvements can say, okay, with $100,000, we'd like to fund item 1 and 4, or something like that, to fit into the budget that we actually have. I guess that's kind of what I'm just confused with why we would strip out any items of the capital matrix and not just leave them all there and then fund the ones that are actually supposed to be funded.
Because we're trying to place and recommend tonight as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, but you could place and recommend the whole matrix and then town meeting.
But we won't want to do that because we've already been told Karen doesn't think she needs it and Jerry's okay with that not happening, and that we're up against it on free cash. So it doesn't make sense for us to, the board, I mean, it doesn't make sense for us to move forward with leaving those in there.
Because of their recommendations that they're not as important, can we just change the order of the matrix? Does that make more sense?
I don't think the order is more as important as I mean, it's, and this is just me in the name of transparency, because I am very transparent, is, this is the matrix that was handed to the Board of Selectmen. If the Board of Selectmen does not recommend the library and the fire department, that's completely fine, like, that's your purview to do that. But the town people should see Board of Selectmen recommend no, FinCom recommend no, capital improvements recommend yes, and then, if it comes out that we only have $125,000, we can go over to town meeting and say, okay, Frank Lacy is chair of the capital improvements, I would like to amend article, whatever number this is, and only fund source 3, 4, and 5 instead of the 1 and 2 to kind of make it more like in that whole system, I guess.
That's what the capital improvement committee has done since I've been on it, under John Norton.
Is recommend the whole matrix and then go from it. I mean, I just don't.
That's why you get, this is what I was trying to explain to people last night. You get $500,000 allocated to capital costs, but the capital improvement committee would always have $1 million, twice as much.
Yeah.
And the matrix would be bigger because it would always defer. His philosophy was it would defer to the town. Just because we thought it was important doesn't necessarily mean the budget would align the day of the meeting. And it also didn't mean that the people in the town want to fund what the priority was, so we kind of pick and choose, and that's why you get people up there challenging the matrix every single year, because they didn't fully understand what was actually happening.
In
So
in
it's-
all honesty, I think it's very highly improbable that we're gonna hear from FinCom that they're gonna recommend either one of those articles.
I don't disagree. I think that's probably what's gonna happen, but I'm not having an issue with it not being funded. I'm having an issue with it not being listed and transparent on there. As these are the capital items that we actually went through, and it's kind of a chain of command, right? Like, so capital improvement is set with making the capital matrix for town meeting. FinCom is set to recommend, saying we have money for it. The Board of Selectmen is the one that says recommended for it because of the money. By removing items from the capital matrix that we worked hard, I'm not gonna say hard, that we worked to put it on there, and you're just stripping them down to
I
top
don't think,
layer.
we didn't take a vote to remove it from the capital matrix. We took a vote to remove it from the article. You can certainly have your capital matrix continue to list those items. We're removing it from the article itself within the town meeting warrant. Like, don't you guys have a separate matrix?
No, we do. I think I
Okay.
should have a copy of the matrix
Yeah.
also, but, I mean, it's
Yeah,
just.
but that's not the matrix, that's our article.
I'm saying, I think he's talking about this as the matrix.
It's not the
This is
matrix, the matrix is the separate,
There's the large matrix that we have, right?
Right.
That is like the 30 pages that has all the.
that's the
promises.
capital improvement matrix, which you guys own what's in there.
But this is our recommendation. This article right here, this article for capital improvement is our priority matrix.
And you can still have that as a separate, oh, I see what you said,
Yeah,
okay.
he's calling this, this is what he's calling priority.
We have
matrix.
two matrices. We have the priority matrix, which is this, which has our priority for that town meeting. And then we have the actual capital matrix, the one that Mr. Hickey's looking at right
Which
now,
is
which
the
is our
official
entire
town document.
8-year matrix,
We've
right?
never had this kind of a, I don't know, I mean, I feel like we're getting caught up in something, and I'm not really exactly sure what. I recognize you guys have put time in, and I'm not trying to be dismissive of that. I don't know how to be responsive to what you're saying, and by the same token, you know, reflect the reality, which is we've been told by our financial team we don't have the money. I don't want to risk that we're gonna have somebody on town hall floor say, well, capital planning said we can do it, and then we're gonna get bankrupt because we've decided to put other articles in here based on the premise that we didn't think that would pass. And that's a real reality.
Madam Chair, at the beginning of this, did you mention how much we had in free cash?
I do not know, I don't know if you know,
Kevin?
1.4 million.
We have 1.4 million. Okay, so those two particular items
That's
are gonna take $300,000 of it. We know we need more money for snow removal. I've been saying that for 5 years, being on the board. We always run out. So I don't wanna run into a situation where all this stuff gets approved and we have no money.
I'm not saying.
Frank, all I'm saying, now, all right, so we know, because someone's gonna ask at the beginning of the meeting how much free cash we have. If you want to leave 1 and 3 on, that's fine, we'll go through that. I'm changing my vote to not recommend.
That's completely fine.
But if that's what you wanna do, to keep
Well,
those two.
wait a minute, let's hold up here. First of all, I'm chairing the meeting, and second of all, we already took a vote.
Okay.
So,
It's done.
we can have a discussion about it, but I'm not saying that that's the direction we're gonna go in. So, Frank,
I will tell you, the reason why I'm frustrated about this
Yeah.
is because as the capital improvement committee, the people who are on there, we are set with a task, make a priority matrix list that we have, which is our 5 items that we have set on the matrix, and then have our big matrix, which is our, multi-department matrix. If the capital improvement brings the priority matrix up to it, and you guys vote to not recommend those individual items, that's completely fine, that is your right as a board of selectmen. But I feel like, I'm not saying you don't have the authority to do it, when you strip items from that priority matrix that we set up as our priority, it is essentially cutting the top off of the work that we already did.
but I think the weird part of this is, Frank, is we've never had it embedded in the warrant. That it's always been a separate capital improvement matrix that people would refer to see where the various articles within the warrant would would fall. So to see, for instance, let's pretend that these weren't all bundled the way that they were right now, that they were all over the place, and I'd be looking at it and I'd say, oh, I wonder what did capital improvement, all right, yeah, that was on the capital improvement matrix, and they had that as the number one priority. All right, I think I'm gonna vote for, oh, wait a minute, FinCom said no on that. Oh, now I gotta weigh my decisions, capital improvement. I think what something is missing in this is, you guys can make your recommendations, but it can't be in the vacuum of what all the other competing needs. So we've got the capital improvement needs, but we have many other competing needs that we're doing. And what I don't want to do is make you guys feel as though all of the time that you spent was wasted, because I know that you've done a Herculean job of pulling this over the line in the short time frame that you had, and like I said, resuscitating the committee. So I am very sensitive to that, but by the same token, we don't have that money. Like, we've got other articles in here that are gonna be spending from free cash that aren't necessarily capital improvement items, and we have to keep an eye on the bottom line. And we've made no provision at all for stabilization funds, school stabilization, OPEB, anything in this town meeting with any of our free cash, which is just crazy. So if we go ahead and we fund those two items, we can make no headway on any of those things. And there may be other items that in here that we're gonna have to say no to, because it's gonna bring us too close.
I guess that's where the miscommunications, right? I'm not saying that these items should be funded. What I'm saying is that it needs to set a precedence that, that when departments and people, this goes back to the HVAC system on all the other articles, when you set a precedence and the capital improvement sets a priority matrix to the town, and we take our time to go through and meet with each department head to the town, the priority matrix that we have should be kept the way that we put it there with the recommendations of Board of Selectmen and FinCom. I'm not saying that you guys can recommend it, I'm just saying that this is the matrix that we have. If you guys want to vote to not recommend it, that is completely fine.
But where is the all-inclusive matrix? Did we get one of those?
You did get an all-inclusive matrix.
Okay. I'm sorry, we just got a pile of stuff that I can't.
Just give me one
Yeah,
second.
it's right here.
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything to this matrix.
That matrix is, I'm talking about the list. That matrix has everything from May and October town meeting, and also things that haven't gotten funded and things that people were hoping to fund in 2023.
Right.
This list is the ones that we actually discussed and went through and said, this is our priority that we find important for capital needs of the town. That's the difference between the big matrix and that small five.
It doesn't have the door on it.
Because that's more, that matrix is more of like a wish list, and like, this is what everybody wants to do. So for example, they want to build a new E1 tower over for the fire department that's going to cost $9 million. This is our priority list that we set up, that we specifically.
Yes, Mr. Gill.
Well, when we discussed this at the meeting, we were talking about, we don't know our budget. We don't know, are we at 500,000 or are we at 100,000? So the priority list was made not knowing that.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So we still don't know it.
And when we
That's our problem.
Mr. Donovan just told you what it was, what the free cash was.
Well, but what is the number for?
Well, it's gonna depend on what other items we.
Yes,
That's the thing. Yeah.
According to the bylaw, the capital improvements get allocated 1% of the operating budget.
We don't know that.
Minimum 1%.
So that's the number. It doesn't matter how much free cash we have. It's irrelevant. It's allocated 1% of the operating budget.
Each town meeting?
Every fiscal year.
Every fiscal year.
Okay. Right? So
Well-
that's
Well, we
the
take
number
off
we're
what we did on the May town meeting.
Exactly. So we were
So we don't
operating
know
off
that
of-
number, so we made a priority based on.
I mean, I'll just say, as this town meeting is kind of a cluster because of the situation that we're in, but I would truly appreciate it if next town meeting, the recommendations that the capital improvements puts up, I would like all the items that we recommend to be on the matrix, and then just vote to not recommend or recommend, depending on how you see fit. And then, if it comes out that capital improvement only has $160,000, it's the responsibility is me, the chair, or Kurt as the vice chair, to go up at town meeting and speak and say, we do not have the money to fund 1, 2, and 3, so with this 165, we're gonna fund 3, 4, 3, 4, and 6, or something along those lines. Like, that's our responsibility as the capital improvement.
Mr. Donovan, I would certainly appreciate your.
I think moving forward, the problem right now, obviously, is that we find ourselves in a dilemma because of varying circumstances. But moving forward, to Joe's point, is that at the beginning, as a matter of policy, when you sit down and do the budget, and I think when the budget message goes out, there should be a defined number, so for budget planning, you can come up with it. Now, if you get to town meeting and you find out you've had extenuating circumstances and you can't meet that number for the appropriation, and you want to put it off till the fall, well then, as soon as free cash is certified, which in Hanson, I've got to say, I'm very impressed that you are one of the first towns that gets certified with free cash. I've never seen that before. Then you sit down again as a matter of policy and say, okay, as a result of everything, Capital Planning Committee, in this case, if it were me, and the answer to your question, if I had the authority to do so, I would have told you had $196,000. Work it out and come back with a recommendation. That would have been my answer to you.
Yes.
But I've been here a week.
Yes.
All right, so in the terms of, for the future, I think you've got to come up with a defined number as part of budget planning and make that a policy decision. Again, if you find yourself at the end of the day, all the money kind of gets crunched and you want to put it off till October, well then, come hell or high water, once free cash is certified, then you can say, okay, for October, you've got X amount of money, come back to us with your recommendations and we can go forward. I really think, given the situation where you sit now for this meeting, we're just going to spin the wheel round and round, and it's going to make nothing. It'd be my recommendation that you go forward with what the vote you've already taken, and then tomorrow's another day, and then for the future you can lie that out.
Yeah, I agree, we haven't been doing the 1%, and we haven't been clear with what people have got a budget, because honestly, we just don't even fund capital, but now that we've got a real committee with real people that are meeting on a frequent basis, and I know we had real people before, but I mean, we've got a renewed vigor, I think we can and we will do better. And I do apologize for the disconnect, it's one of many for this town meeting.
There'll be many more. I mean, that's not,
it's a first world problem, but nevertheless, as I said before, I don't want to diminish the amount of effort that you guys put in. So, all right, so I think we're going to move forward with the vote we've taken. Mr. Weeks. Oh, all right, you were making hand signals, I wasn't sure.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to belabor the point. I just want to make sure that this is the second time we've done this in May. I really want a town meeting to go smoothly and not be a race to figure this out, because I think one of the things that the committee has been working really hard to do is try to meet the deadlines that the Board of Selectmen have imposed. You cannot do that if you only have half the information.
Well, we're going to put together a group. I'm sure that this will be part of what comes up at the strategic planning. And we certainly need a timeline that we adhere to with everybody's roles and responsibilities outlined, some of which Mr. Donovan just, mentioned. And I think that maybe we'll put you on that little subcommittee.
I mean, again, I don't want to belabor the point. It is time to move on, but it's just, I just want to reiterate that particular piece. So that's
I wasn't chairing in May, but I'm chairing now, and we will do better. Okay, all right. I think we've beaten that little nag to death, and it's off in a glue factory somewhere. All right, let's see. So, Article 7. To see if the town will vote to transfer $8,000 from free cash to retain the services of qualified Massachusetts registered engineering firm to conduct a roadway and drainage infrastructure study of Litchfield Lane and Proudfoot Way, and prepare a report of the findings for submission to Hanson Planning Board and Hanson Select Board, or take any action there too. I just remembered that I told Mr. Sharp I would take his article, but if you don't mind me just getting through this, Jameson, then we'll get to you. Yes, once again, it's a private way situation. However, if we read the description, the devil's in the details. These streets were accepted as public ways at the 2006 annual town meeting. Quitclaim deeds for the roadway and drainage easements were never obtained within the 120 days after the town meeting as required under Mass General Law, Chapter 82, Section 24, thus voiding the approval of town meeting. Therefore, both Litchfield Lane and Proudfoot Way continue as private ways. Prior to proceeding with the roadway acceptance process, the planning board is seeking the information to determine the existing conditions of the roadway and drainage infrastructure. In a nutshell, something jumped the tracks here after we voted in 2006 at annual town meeting. We didn't file things within the right time frame. So now, because it's been 16 years, we want to make sure nothing's gone south there before the town takes on the responsibility for those roads by making it a public way. After this, if this is to pass at town meeting, it's a modest amount, $8,000, to just kind of take another look at the existing conditions. Then the next step would once again to be proposing this to town meeting to accept it as a public way. And then I assure you that the lovely and talented Mr. DeFreitas will make sure with town council that we file the quitclaim deed within the 120 days, so we don't have to talk about this any longer.
Question.
Yes.
What if it doesn't pass inspection? Who's going
Then
to
I'm
pay
sure
to
that,
fix
I'm
it?
sure that, well, it's still a private way.
I know.
And so I'm sure that at that point, we will have Mr. DeFreitas and the planning board come and talk to us about it. But thank you for that provocative question. Okay.
I'm good at those.
Any further discussion on this? Mr. Heel, you have a puzzled look on your face.
recommend
Okay.
to place.
Okay, I am looking for a recommendation to place.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I am looking for a recommendation to recommend.
So moved. Second.
I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. I just let
Did you
those two
say-
go for it.
Okay. you
Let
just-
them go for it.
We can, all right, they'll be our tag team.
Yeah, that's
All right, all in favor? All right, great. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer $15,000 from free cash for the demolition of 1157 Main Street or take any other action relative thereto. Chief Thompson did say he was hoping that this would still stay in. It's a relatively modest amount, so I didn't think that that would be an issue.
What building is this?
It's the little garage next to the old fire station on Main Street. You may not have even know that we own it. It's a little dilapidated,
Yeah,
it's starting to go south.
Okay.
Any discussion on that? All right, I will entertain a motion to place Article 8.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 8.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Amazing. Okay, Article 9, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson Land Use Regulation zoning bylaws by amending section 6, subsection L, special requirements for medical marijuana facilities and marijuana establishments to allow for delivery in industrial zones or take any action relative thereto. The Select Board believes that there was a significant confusion at the last town meeting, given the number of warrant articles, this is the understatement of the night, related to cannabis. This article will allow the citing of delivery operation, again, not brick and mortar, delivery only, in the town, and thereby generate income for the town. Delivery operators are subject to the 3% local sales tax and are not permitted under this license to operate a brick and mortar retail store.
Where do we come into the not delivering in Hanson? You mentioned that was not decided yet.
We never discussed that. Now, we can carve it out if we want.
But it says in their documentation that they provided to us that it does not include delivery to Hanson.
And they had said that to me, and I said, we never discussed that. I said, well, we discussed that we would discuss it, but we never did discuss it.
Okay.
How do people feel about it not being delivered to Hanson?
It's gonna have to change because other delivery services will be allowed to deliver in Hanson.
No delivery is allowed to Hanson today.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Well,
is.
medical, but, yeah.
Medical can,
Yeah.
but no recreational.
No recreation,
interest,
no.
No company can.
No.
Yeah, they did, one of these presentations, they said there's a bubble around Hanson.
Yes.
Nobody can deliver to Hanson.
This doesn't, does this, should, I would think, should reiterate that or say we're going to change the law, the bylaw to allow it to happen. We either go one way or the other.
Well, I think that we had a question, and I'm not sure if we got it answered, and I'm not expecting that you would know this answer either, Mr. Donovan. But I think we had a question out there, whether or not, us structuring our delivery bylaw to accept out Hanson, whether that allowed us to continue under your quote-unquote bubble of no delivery, or whether it really mattered. And I don't know that we ever actually got an answer on that. I don't remember if I think Kate was at that meeting, and
It was the Impress LLC's lawyer that told us that nobody can deliver to Hanson.
Yeah.
right now,
Unless we
Right,
change
unless
it.
we change the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, this is saying that this company can deliver anywhere but Hanson, not anywhere but Hanson,
no,
anywhere it's
our
allowed.
article does not say that,
It
but,
doesn't specifically.
but our article does not say that, but you're saying that they said that in the materials.
Yeah, it says it right.
Hanson has never agreed to allow for delivery.
No, I recognize that, Ed. What I'm trying to say is, our article right now does not carve out Hanson.
Correct. Okay, that,
Does anybody
Right, it
want
does
to
not.
carve out Hanson, I guess is the question. Do we want to say nobody can deliver to Hanson?
even though right now nobody can deliver to Hanson, so we don't need to say it, we just need to reiterate the fact.
No, we need to be specific in what we're passing to say that that we're carving out Hanson. Yes, Mrs. Capano.
Why not let others deliver, but let LLC deliver?
We can't do that.
Why
The law won't allow us. Kate was clear on that. We can't give exclusivity. Once it's opened, it's
Well,
open.
then why can't we? Because
Today we can't, we just don't have, we haven't allowed it as a town.
to allow others to come in, can you do that, or no? you
Well, no,
don't?
that's what we're discussing, is if we allow delivery in Hanson
Anybody.
by these guys, then it's everybody. It's an all or nothing. That's our understanding.
Right. I mean, people like, you don't, it was turned down the retail store. I was a little disappointed in that because we get tax revenue, but now the whole area is saturated. But from what people I've
Oh,
talked
yeah,
to.
right now.
The whole area, other towns,
Yeah.
Right
not
around,
Hanson.
yeah, all around Hanson, but most
Right.
people go to a town that they don't live in,
Right.
anyway.
Right. So, all right, let's flip this on its ear a bit.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who feels strongly
And
that they
that's-
do not want to have delivery to residents in Hanson from any delivery operator?
I don't see the point of fighting it, frankly, because it's happening all over the place, and if someone can't get it delivered to their house, they can go to Middleborough. They can
Anybody
go to
that wants to
Rockland,
look at it.
they can go anywhere and get their weed if they want to.
I honestly look at it as reducing the amount of potential revenue we get. I think if they're gonna be operating in Hanson and we're gonna have the grow facility in Hanson, you know, why would we want to exclude Hanson from their sales territory?
This is a different, situation than the question at hand. And if I recall that meeting, I remember Joe saying it was a bubble. And I thought, I said something along the lines of, Hanson is always reactive, and we need to be proactive on this. If we're a bubble, eventually the state is gonna penalize
Yes.
these bubble towns.
And and Kate said that, she said that to us.
So, we need to change the bylaw, with the marijuana delivery service.
And that
Not
would take-
retail, just delivery.
Yeah, but that would take a separate article, correct?
No, that's what this is.
article
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
That's what this is. You were just asking about the bubble, so we went down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
One of many this evening. Okay, so, great. Now that we've had that discussion, were there any other questions about this article? Any other comments? Okay. I will entertain a motion to place Article 9.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 9.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. All right, Article 10. To see if the town, oh, I'm sorry, Jamie, so where the heck are you?
Article 10.
So you've got a couple here, all right. I'm gonna just take things a bit out of order. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, Article 14, I'm sorry, so you guys can follow along here.
14, okay.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer $50,000 to the town-wide fuel account. I mean, if you need an explanation, you might be living under a rock, but
Right.
due to the present drastic increase in fuel costs and equipment, parts relative to gas and oil, this account is underfunded. There is also a state mandate for vapor recovery fuel system upgrade requirements that need to be completed by January 23 of approximately $6,000. Anybody have any? Okay, I will entertain a motion to place.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer $74,000 from free cash to townwide stormwater management and MS for permit-related items or take any other action relative thereto. And as the explanation indicated, you know, the MS4 requirements require money. They're coming fast and furious, and I don't think we've really funded much at all, have we, Mr. Sharp, as far as MS4?
This is just for the annual reporting and
Yep.
testing and
Yep.
surveys that has to be done on every year of the program.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay. I will entertain a motion to place.
So moved. Second.
I will entertain a motion to, oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 15.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? And Article 16, to see if the town will vote to transfer $25,000 from free cash to townwide retention pond cleaning fund on public-owned property in conjunction in adhering to the town stormwater and drainage MS4 compliance or take any other action relative thereto. I will entertain a motion to place Article 16.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 16.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Are you raising your hand in advance of me asking? I appreciate the support. All right, Mr. Sharp, is there anything else that we had on here for you?
I think everything else is kind of on hold, on the back burner for now.
Okay, all right.
For
Well,
the planning meeting.
Yep, we appreciate all the hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now I have to circle back to Article, 10 was 12. Nope, Article 11, Article 10. And thank you for your patience, Mr. Clements. To see if the town will vote to transfer $40,000 from free cash to replenish the Conservation Fund or take any other action relative thereto, proposed by Conservation Commission. In explanation, I think, actually, Mr. Clements himself gave us an explanation at the last meeting.
By the way, did you folks get a package of information
Yes.
from? Okay,
Yep.
we realize it's extensive, but we thought it would be good to communicate to the public, just making sure that package has been distributed.
Yep. Okay, I will entertain a motion to place Article 10.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 10.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? You guys with us there? Okay, all right. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to place the properties identified as Assessors Map 106, lots 7 and 10-1, and Assessors Map 98, lots 10, 11, 12, and 15, into the care and custody of the Conservation Commission for open space protection under Article 97 of the Massachusetts Constitution, or take any other action relative thereto. Explanation. The Little Cedar Swamp is an important wetland resource that provides stormwater storage, treatment, and aquifer recharge, as well as wildlife habitat. It is one of the headwaters of Indian Head Brook and River, and as such is part of a cold water fishery, one of the few in the southeastern Massachusetts. So is this parcel the one that was donated, or did we?
Not at all, no, this is separate from a parcel that was recently conveyed to the town.
Okay, all right.
This is town-owned, it's fragments of the swamp, we want to reunite them,
Okay.
basically.
This is down there in winter.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I will entertain a motion to place Article 11.
Someone,
Second.
Beach.
You guys are changing.
I wanted that
I'm
one.
not changing, no, we're letting them do it.
No, I wanted that
All in
one.
favor? Okay, I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 11.
So moved.
All in favor? All right. Now, Article 12, I did have a discussion again with Mr. Clemens. We know that the Conservation feels that it's important to make Mr. Skellinger full-time, but the optics of trying to add the custodian, our part-time position, and the Conservation Commission person to make them full-time is not good all in one meeting. So, you know, I don't know what everybody's thoughts are.
This is something that's been needed for a long time, I think. I mean, we have to make some kind of a case for these people to understand that the workload's increased for everybody.
Well, we had asked to have an explanation of the additional things that.
You received the explanation?
We may have
crafted
just
one.
received it, but we had asked to have it received.
We sent it last week, I thought.
Yeah,
September 12th, we sent an article, sent a memo to the
Which was
board.
Monday.
Oh, that's yesterday, right?
Yeah.
It seems like so long ago. I have the explanation here. I can read it quickly. Conservation agent is currently authorized for 19 hours a week. Is the only department head is not full-time. Hanson's growth continues and environmental laws and issues have become so complex that a part-time position cannot adequately serve the public. Economic growth and commercial development will require increased services from the agent. Accurate and timely analysis of applications and questions regarding stormwater compliance, wetland protection, riverfront protection, wildlife habitats, public access to conservation land, supportive collaboration with other town departments, etc., all require time that is not sufficiently available at present. I would emphasize that the stormwater especially takes a lot of calculation. We had one hearing that lasted in 2021, from January until August. And there were 6 different iterations of stormwater calculations. This is not third grade math, this is complex stuff. Our agent did a lot of that himself, and we finally have ended up hiring a consultant. A significant sized project, which we thought was questionable at best, ended up, after all this analysis, 8 months worth, it was denied. It was appealed to the state, and we found out in writing today, the state also denied it. So it took like a year and a half of calculation for stormwater for one project. Most of the good land has been developed. Most of what's going to come forward now is going to be either marginal or on the edges. It's going to require more analysis, not less. We want to do it right, and we want to be able to either we do it or it goes undone, and there's a chance for more mistakes to get made if we don't have the time to do it. All I can say is that, I would say one other thing. What if we proposed that instead of starting in October, we said, let's defer the start of this new approach to January 1st, and only have the last 6 months rather than 9 months of fiscal 23 be covered. That would reduce the ask to $17,747.50.
it would reduce the ask, Mr. Clemens, but it would not reduce the perception that.
Well, I'm sorry,
yeah.
we're dealing with facts, and I spoke with the town accountant, and what I just said, he recommended we consider if there was concern. And I hear concern, but what we're talking about with the workload isn't perception, it's facts. And I don't know what the public will say, but it simply is fact.
Okay. Did anybody have any thoughts on this?
I have to say, I support the position. I think it's necessary. Many years ago, I was on that commission, and there was a full-time agent.
There was a full-time agent until around 2009, 2010, when the recession hit.
Yep.
Then it was cut in half. We'd like to restore what we had before, because the workload now is not less than it was in that decade, it's greater.
Mr. Weeks.
I'm sensitive, I'm gonna say what I said last time. I am sensitive to the idea that the town's in a financial situation. I'm sensitive to the fact that a lot of the financial folks are meeting right now, and there are things that get in people's lives that cause meetings to run late or things to happen last minute. But town meeting is to decide what the priority is. I said that last meeting, I'm gonna say it again. We have 3 positions here. I still think that instead of recommending anything, that in issues related to capital improvement and the funding of positions that have some type of financial tie, the townspeople should have a right to know the financial situation of the town and have the ability to vote up or down what they consider to be the most important positions. And I totally understand that as a board, we have to make decisions that we consider to be important. But my personal vote is the town has the ability to make informed decisions on their own. So I would ask that we place all of these positions on there, and I'm gonna say it now before it gets away, that we consider deferring the decision to town meeting and not voting to either recommend or not recommend these positions.
Well, I respectfully will disagree with that when it comes to the position that's proposed by the select board. I think that I feel very strongly that the select board needs to support their own article and vote to recommend it. Otherwise, who the heck is recommending it? And why are we even proposing it?
I think the town has the ability to make their informed decisions.
I very strongly disagree, but we'll take a vote on that when we get to that. Article 12, did some...
Ed had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry,
rather-
Ed.
Oh, no, Joe.
All right,
Joe
so
spoke for me.
if I was to ask a question.
No, you.
And I'm not saying I'm for or against it, and I guess, Kevin, I would address this to you since you've got the experience. A part-time position goes to a full-time position, like at the library. Is it considered a new job, and does it have to be posted?
Well, I think that the broader question is, with the addition, because I'm just noticing that the agent currently works 16 hours a week, they're not eligible for benefits.
Right.
When you go to 35, so you've got to factor in health insurance, retirement, and the like. That's number one. Number two, in terms of advertising, honestly, there are 2 schools of thought on that. If somebody's currently part-time and you want to upgrade them to full-time, you have the ability to do it, but you also have the ability to say, no, it's a new position, we're going to cast the net wide. At that point, it's a business decision, and administratively, you can pick whichever route you want to travel.
And so then I would refer to Phil with Frank, because we've run through this before in other positions. Is Frank certified in everything that he needs to be certified in?
He has a PhD in environmental engineering. He has taken every fundamentals course that's offered by the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions. He is, I don't know how you could be much more certified than that. I've worked with probably 5 or 6 agents we've had here. And one of our recent commissioners was the first conservation agent the town of Hanson ever had. And I think Frank was more qualified than he. But as the science and the regulations have grown, you need people to keep growing with it. I'm sure that certification is essential. It's a good question, but I think the short answer is yes.
Okay,
he is.
Great.
And it was full-time for a number of years until about 12 years ago when the last recession kicked all our legs out from under us. So,
and I mean, that's what we're all worried about, is the possibility of another recession. But in 2010, not only did the Conservation Commission lose that full-time position, the senior center lost their person down there, which left, obviously, Mary by herself. And the only reason I know that is because of my conversations with Mary, and it was in 2010 that position was lost too.
The town planner went to half-time then, too.
All right, we need to get back on track here, because the hour's getting late. Does anybody want to make a motion to place this article?
I want to place this article.
Okay,
Second it.
okay.
Whoop.
All in favor? And did you want to make your motion?
I'm more than happy to. I'll make a motion to defer the article to town meeting. So
Okay.
moved.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, great. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $22,034 from free cash to be added to the selectmen's budget to hire a part-time administrative assistant in the selectmen's office for 15 hours per week or take any other action relative thereto. These funds will help secure a part-time clerical position for the selectmen's office to assist with the daily operations of the office. Do we want to have any further discussion about this? Is there anybody who is not convinced that we need any additional help in our office?
Statement, last time when it was presented at town meeting, I felt overall the presentation could have been a little better, a little more definitive.
Yes.
Because people just started going nuts, and that, what happened shouldn't have happened.
Agreed.
So that's my only concern, is sometimes the explanation isn't adequate enough.
I agree, Mrs. Capardo and Mr. Donovan. I think one of the things we had asked Lisa to do, and I know she did it, but I'm not sure where it's documented, but I do think it's going to be critical for town meeting, is to do a comparison of similar towns with similar demographics and what the staffing models are for those towns. We know anecdotally that we're behind the 8 ball here, but, but she did do it, but I don't know if we actually got a handout or if she just verbally said it to us. But we're gonna need that at town meeting.
Yeah, you're right.
We need something at town meeting, that says, we're not making this stuff up. The job has gotten more complicated over the years, because what we keep hearing is, well, Mary could do it, why can't you guys just do it like Mary did it? A lot's changed since Mary's been here, and there's different online permitting and things like that need to be done for liquor licenses and a million other different things. In addition to that, we had somebody who was in the job for 20-some-odd years. That's a lot different than having somebody coming in from the outside. So I
The thing is, Mary chose to come in and work on weekends and take work home.
Yeah.
That was not, I'm sure, in her contract.
It was not, and she did not get paid for it.
Yeah. 40 hours, the work would have piled up.
That is true,
So
and
in one way, it was a little disservice. I'm not knocking her because she was great, but I think what happened was when it was saying we didn't get these minutes typed up yet, I'm saying to myself, that was 6 months ago. That's unacceptable.
Right.
I mean, I didn't get up and say anything because I knew you were behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
But I think a thorough explanation needs to be had, because there's still going to be a couple people who will oppose it.
Yep, and I think, in truth, we're not looking to be the same old select board that we always were. There's more we want to do. We want to do more communication. We want to have a more robust website. We can't do any of that. We're just making it through, and sometimes not even that with the current staff. So, anyways, I know I'm preaching to the choir on that. So I will entertain a motion to place Article 13.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 13.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay. Article 14.
We did 14, we did 15.
We did 14, 15, 16, and we're up to 17. Sorry, Mr. Melisi, that I kept you waiting here for that one.
What's 17?
17 is the rename.
Oh, the rename, Mr. Hickey had questions about this that I wasn't here for last week.
Article 17, to see if the town will vote to change the name of the Recreation Commission to the Camp Kiwanee Commission or take any other action relative thereto. One thing that occurred to me, and I haven't had a chance to circle back and look at it, but I want to make sure there's not, that there's not like a bylaw that created it, that we've got to go back and change that bylaw. I just want to double check. Of course you do.
Give me about 3.5 minutes and I'll find out.
While we're discussing it, feel free to peruse your bylaws.
So if we change the name to Camp Kiwanee Commission, does that, what are we going to do about, there's other recreation in town.
We'll need to do something in May.
So and speaking as just not as a recreation commissioner, but as a citizen, what I would like to see is in May, create a new recreation committee, preferably, I mean, in my opinion, it should be a 7-member committee for the recreation committee because they're not making more business decisions, it's more of a planning committee at that point. So the more the merrier, the more minds the merrier. But and to answer Mr. Hickey's question from last meeting that I was not here at, our job description per se at the recreation committee that we have right now is not going to change.
No.
Like, we will be doing the same exact things that we've been doing before. You know, the Camp Kiwanee, the recreation committee as it sits right now is a business. It's a wedding committee. That is what we do. We do 90% wedding, 10% recreation, 7% recreation, 3% BS stuff, you know, just managing the camp, right? So, but the responsibilities that we have, you know, that are going to be coming up in fiscal year 23 is going to be the recreation, more recreation focused. Now that the budget is kind of resolved, not resolved. Sorry, that was a dumb word to say. Now that the budget is a little bit better than it was last year,
So, parks, do we have like parks and fields?
We have parks and fields,
Okay.
which is separate, and then we have the Camp Kiwanee guys, and so it might be a case, and again, I definitely think this will come up at the strategic planning. We've been sort of like the prior board hinted around it, doing something about it, we never really got to it, but I think the strategic planning thing will kind of move it in that direction of maybe that recreation commission is like an umbrella kind of thing, with people from Parks and Fields, with people from Camp Kiwanee, with people from, yeah, you know, like all, you know, or maybe not, and maybe they just reach out to people. So that's something we'll have to see.
So I'm not seeing a bylaw in here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're
one for
not.
Parks and Fields Commission specifically. You know, a good model to go off of because it's a similar town to us is the Whitman model of recreation. They have a recreation department that actually has a recreation director, and then I believe their committee members 3 sizes for recreation instead of 5. But you know, I know that there was interest in bringing the recreation budget into the general fold of the budget now that, you know, so that may be an option. I mean, you know, recreation you can sell in a town, so you wouldn't need a big budget for it, but you know, any event that you have, like you know, for example, the 200th anniversary carnival that you guys did, you know, you can do stuff like that and everybody would love it in town. So I would suggest that you guys would make a new recreation committee in May if this change goes through. If not, then we can talk about expanding the scope of the current recreation committee, but I don't think that'd be a good idea.
No, I don't, I think you've got a lot on your plate as it is, and so, all right, so I will entertain a motion to place Article 17.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 17.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Article 18, this is basically saying to amend the zoning bylaws, because when the whole select board thing went through, which for the record was not me that recommended it, I wasn't the one that proposed it or anything.
I'm going to abstain on this one.
You're going to abstain?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's everybody's prerogative. We apparently did not do the flow-through changes to the zoning bylaws, so it would, if we kept things the way they were, we'd keep referring to selectmen and all of the zoning and select board throughout the rest, so it's just tidying it up. So I will recommend a motion, I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 18.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
With one abstaining. Article 18, I will entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? One abstaining. Okay, Article 19, to see if the town will vote to amend, second Article 2-11, Section 1. Why does it say second article? Amend second Article 2-1.
In the bylaws, it's called Article 2 dash, that's the capital improvements?
No, that's fine, but it says to amend second Article 2-11.
Oh, I don't, that's not on Kevin, that was on me, because I copied and pasted those.
Oh, all right, I just think that's,
my fault.
it's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so to amend Article...
Second.
Yeah, just get rid of the word second. to amend Article 2-11, Section 1 of the Capital Improvement Committee General Bylaw of Hanson by changing the committee size from 7 citizens at large to 5 citizens at large with 2 non-voting alternates. The strike-through would be removed and the underlined italics would replace the strike-through. So he's got the example here. Explanation: the committee size would make it easier for this important committee to achieve a quorum. I will entertain a motion to place Article 19.
So moved. Second.
I will entertain, all right, sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 19.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? And Article 20, to see if the town will vote to amend second article, again, I don't know why I keep saying second article. Article 2-11, Section 2 of the Capital Improvement Committee General Bylaws of Hanson by changing the limit for capital improvement expenses to have a useful life of 5 years instead of 10 years. The strike-through would be removed and the underlined italics would replace the strike-through. Frank came and spoke to us about this before,
Right,
so
yes.
I will entertain a motion to place Article 20.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 20.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are chugging along, cooking with gas. Let's see, Article 21. To see if the town will vote to amend, again, Article 1-1 of the general bylaws of Hanson by allowing town meeting and special town meeting to begin at 6:30 PM. The strike-through would be removed and the underlined italics would replace the strike-through. Mr. Melisi, when you had mentioned this to us, we were very bullish about it, everybody was in favor, but we had asked that you circle back and talk to the town moderator and the town clerk, and I'm just wondering if you had an opportunity to do that.
I sent the message to Sean, and I have not heard anything back yet, so I will reach out to him again. I unfortunately have not had a discussion with Beth either. I will talk to Beth. And if either of them have a problem with that article, then I will stand up and pass it.
Move to pass it
Yeah,
over.
move to
Okay.
pass it.
All right, that seems fair.
And me and Kevin discussed this article also. I proposed it, but I didn't propose it as a committee, so, I think we had to put that the select board would propose
That's
it.
fine, yeah.
So,
Yeah, we're looking for ways to engage more people, and if changing the time by a modest, little time frame will help that. We've talked about it for years, should we do it on a Saturday? Should we do, that type of thing. So that's a bylaw though. This is just a little tweak, to the bylaw. So, any further discussion on this one? All right, I will entertain a motion to place Article 21.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 21.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Article 22, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of $8,928.50 from free cash for the purposes of purchasing and installing street signs for private ways, it should say.
Yes, it should.
Said installation to take place on the public ways where it meets with the private way, or take any other action relative thereto. There are a number of private ways that do not possess sufficient street signs denoting the location. Any questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to place Article 22.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 22.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? All right, and then Article 23, to see if the town will vote so this is the one that Jameson was mentioning to us. He wanted to do the feasibility study for the highway department, to be at Botieri Field. However, after having a conversation with him, I said, Ian is overseeing the highway department feasibility.
Which hasn't done much.
thing. We haven't put a bow on that yet. We also don't have a dollar amount for tearing down McQuon, and both of these questions are gonna be asked at town meeting.
Right.
If we come up with a feasibility study for a new location for the highway, and he said, I agree with that. So he actually, I wish he was still here, because he'd back me up, but he said he really didn't think that we should be doing that, the timing just wasn't right.
Right, no.
I'm really hoping that we will have had an RFP for McQuon, by May town meeting and know that dollar amount for complete demolition, and that we could put a bow on that feasibility study. And when I did talk to him, he mentioned that he was hoping that you and Todd and maybe like FinCom, could sit down and talk about how much money's left and then like next steps. After town meeting.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, and that's for the original one.
I think somebody will also mention the amount of money that was spent on the Hawks ad,
Yes.
like 400,
Yes.
whatever, so
Yep.
that's probably good.
So we definitely need to put a bow on that, which Mrs. Rain's gonna help with. She's inheriting a little bit of a ticking time bomb on that one, but I have confidence in you. And then I think part of what I'm hoping we can say, and if we can't say it, but I'm hoping we can, is that, although, yes, if that location proves to not be a good location for highway, that in fact, part of that was a needs assessment, and that needs assessment can be repurposed and used for whatever ultimate place we put it. So it's not a complete wash, maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel
No,
better.
he
but-
said that to me
Yeah,
too.
okay. Okay, so that's Article 22. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have not put any stabilization money in our own budget, or the regional school stabilization, or OPEB. We haven't done anything
So
a while on this. Mr.
are we
Dunn.
taking out Article 23?
Well, I'm sorry, yes, so do you need a motion for that?
Are you striking it?
Yes, okay, so I will entertain a motion to remove Article 23.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you for keeping us honest, Mr. Duggan. There's a suggestion in talking to Mr. Duggan that perhaps $60,000 could be put into the stabilization fund. Do we know what's in that fund right now, Mr. Duggan?
I don't.
$896,000.
All right, thank you. And then, actually, I may even have that right here. And that there be $20,000 put into the regional school stabilization, because we know we're gonna be up against it, no matter what we do, and I know 20,000 isn't a lot, but it's something. And then OPEB, which is our, pension benefit, which unfunded, which I don't even know what our unfunded liability is there. I'm kind of afraid to even say it out loud, but it's in the millions, and we probably have less than $200,000 put away towards it. We're not unusual, like I did ask the auditor when he was here, and that was one of his recommendations, was that we start steadily chipping away and putting money towards that, so that we're not caught in a position where we absolutely have nothing in there. So I propose, if you guys will, doing an article for $60,000 for stabilization. What do you guys think about that?
Sure.
Will anybody make a motion?
So moved.
Okay, anybody second? All right, all in favor? Okay, and then an article for regional school stabilization of $20,000.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then OPEB of $20,000.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. With that, I'm trying to think if there's any article that we did not
Oh, you got them all.
address.
You got them all.
I got 'em
So,
all,
would
okay.
this be Article 24 that we just talked about?
Yeah.
That would be Article probably 20, since we removed 23,
Yeah.
it would probably be 23, 24, and 25. Yeah,
And if I could, Madam Chairman,
yes, please.
just, I have the signature sheet for the warrant that I have to give to the town clerk tomorrow to post the warrant, but with these changes, I'm gonna have to reconfigure the warrant.
Okay.
I guess I'm gonna try and fit it in. If I can't, I'm gonna need signatures. Now, if you cannot come in tomorrow, let me know and I'll go find you to get it signed. So please,
What time? I have a slot in the middle of the day that I could come in.
oh, okay. I could,
Let's see, 12:30.
if I get in here early,
Get here at 2 or 2:30?
oh, no, yeah, oh, well, plenty time.
Okay.
I usually I try and get here by 7:30.
How late can you, that's the problem. I work in Boston until I get home at 6.
Oh, okay.
I could make it 5:15. So I can get here by 5:30, but I can sign it while you're not here, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, well, why don't we have everybody sign this? You only need 3 technically, and this is just the posted warrant that, generally speaking, the posted warrant is not gonna be printed for town meeting. Town meeting is gonna get the informational warrant, which I think from an optic standpoint is more important for you to sign. From a legal standpoint, in order to post the warrant, you really only need 3. So I'm gonna ask if you could sign this. If I can configure it so that it fits into this, I don't have to worry about it. If I need to call you for the posted warrant, can at least 3 of you come in tomorrow?
Yeah, I come in.
Okay.
And just so, everybody knows, and Beth had asked specifically to
Yeah.
get this locked down tomorrow so she can give it to the constables, so.
To
yeah,
post by,
so,
yeah.
Okay, but we did not vote to close the warrant, which we need to do.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, great. And that is a large chunk of what we have to talk about, and then
We have an awful lot of paper left.
we have a
We
lot of
haven't
paper. And then we have the vote to approve one-day liquor licenses for Camp
Get 2 of those,
Quaney,
Joe.
as printed in our, agenda. So there's,
3 of them?
3 liquor licenses.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Quick question about the liquor licenses.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Just
no.
to make this process easier, is there a reason why we don't give Camp Kawani a liquor license? So we don't have to do one?
We were told we can't. We looked at that. We in fact even looked at, you mean getting an actual liquor license for Camp Quaney?
Like Camp Kawani, the establishment itself? No?
No, municipalities
Yeah,
for
municipalities.
insurance
You
liability.
can't even, municipalities can't even sell liquor. And how do we know this? Because we got into a little situation with the 200th anniversary where we were gonna try to sell bottles of wine, and we found out that.
Can we not give the vendor that we use a liquor license? Because we only use one vendor for all of our weddings up there.
Are we required to RFP that out? I don't know.
Well, even if we are.
You know what, can we take that
Yes.
offline? Okay, great.
Offline.
Given the hour and the rabbit hole we could potentially go down on this one.
Thanks, Frank.
No, I'm not saying shut your mouth, because I appreciate everything you do. We don't have any appointments.
Dollars for scholars.
Okay, I had one thing I wanted to mention. I did get contacted by Steve Amico. If you guys recall, for the holiday festival, it was either last week or the meeting before, we had voted to allow them to use Town Hall Green for the 10th of December, contingent upon the fireworks people being available. Well, it turns out that the fireworks aren't available and/or would be excessively more expensive on the 10th, so he asked if he could use it on the 3rd, which I guess we should probably make a motion for that, just to be official about it, so I will entertain a motion to change the approval for the holiday festival to be December 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, great, and I'm sorry, Mr.
Dollars for scholars, the amended agenda that I sent out on
Does
Saturday.
anybody have the amended agenda to show, can you just
Yeah,
slide
it's,
that my way? Okay, thanks.
Number 5.
All right, thanks, sorry about that.
We also need to adjourn the capital improvements meeting as well.
Yep. Also, request dollars for scholars to use McQuon School parking lot for Fall Electronic Recycling Day on September 17th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? All right, great, thank you.
What can you recycle there?
All kinds of stuff. They have a little list, like televisions, all kinds of electronics.
What about air conditioners?
I'm not sure about that, because they're free on.
We take 10 seconds and close.
Yes, please, yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to close the capital improvement meeting on September 13th at 9:57
So
p.m. All in favor?
No second, second.
Oh, second, I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this was,
Nay.
I'll tell you about that.
How are we doing?
None of the
We
cancer
voted on this?
representatives.
Also, Mr. Donovan, did you want to give a brief town administrator's report?
Briefly. I started, as you know, about a week and a half ago. Essentially, I've been able to clean up a lot of the backlog, if you will, focusing primarily on the warrant, which doing a lot of work to make sure we've coordinated everything and everything will run smoothly for town meeting. Lynn came in to work last week, so we've been focusing on trying to clean up, and we've got the student intern as well, trying to clean up on the minutes, beginning that process as well.
On the wrong line.
I've been trying to keep the board informed of anything, any ancillary stuff that
Signed it on the
comes
wrong
up,
line.
from that standpoint. And
Maybe
I think there was a question on the cell tower at the Hanson Middle School.
Yes.
And the Verizon informs us that they've ordered a part and it should be within a month completed from that standpoint. And I think, and I am quite sure there are many more things I'm forgetting right now. But
No, I think that alone, if you achieve.
I don't believe it. If you do that.
We'll erect a statue with your name.
We will. I screwed up and I signed it the wrong way.
Oh, that's.
I know. I'm in the wrong, so I gotta sign it up there. All right, I'm sorry.
Okay, and, any other items? Okay, all right, great. I know this was a marathon session, but that's the bad news, but the good news is that means that our walkthrough on the 27th is gonna be a cakewalk. And it is, it's gonna be wonderful. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? All right, great.
So is this just?